Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here!
And Blue Dragon 5.
And folks, tonight we are talking about something truly epic, truly game-changing. Holy crap. That's right, Dragon. We are talking about the movie that everyone is talking about. That's right, folks. Hold on to your hat because we're about to do a spoiler cast for The Perfect Date on Netflix. All right. I'm sorry, Dragon. I just have to get this out of my system. So the day after Endgame came out, which is, of course, what we're actually going to be talking about, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I found this, like, hideously ironic and completely self-unaware post where it was just like I wish I could screen share it with you right now, but the picture was literally like these obviously 30-somethings playing high schoolers doing duck face selfies, and the text at the top literally read, "Don't miss the movie that everyone is talking about. The Perfect Date, now streaming on Netflix." And then I had to share that shit, Dragon. I had to be like, that's right, Netflix. This is the movie everyone is talking about. You guys sure have your finger on the pulse. I'm sorry for the tangent, Dragon. I just find it incredibly amusing that anyone would have the balls to say this is the movie everyone's talking about this weekend.
Yep.
Right. So, Dragon, Endgame, of course, we both came out of it Thursday night completely loving it. You made the Pulp Fiction briefcase analogy, which is pretty much what I have been describing to people when they ask my opinion of it, because I think it's a really good analogy. Basically this whole movie is kind of like what people were looking at when they opened the Pulp Fiction briefcase. But suffice to say, upon seeing it a second time, first of all, seeing it a second time, I got to see it in giant screen. I got to see it in Atmos. Both those things definitely help. I saw it in a theater that was literally like maybe 3 times as many people as I saw it with on Thursday night, which was just kind of the benefit of seeing it at a bigger screen. And I gotta say, Dragon, like there are one or two nitpicky things about this movie that I'll go over that I wasn't really feeling the first time watching it. But other than that, I mean, it's like, okay, you know what? People are calling The Lion King a religious experience. Dragon, my theater experience last night, that was a religious experience. That was where, I went in knowing everything that was going to happen in advance. Like, that feeling where you're with an audience and you don't know who's seen the film for the first time or not. And so you're kind of waiting for those big moments to happen so you can get those reactions out of people. Dragon, I had such a fun time with my audience last night. Specifically, there was a guy sitting like maybe 2 or 3 seats to my right. And Dragon, me and this guy, we never actually said a word to each other, but I feel like we kept looking back and forth to each other at these key moments, and we kept kind of screaming the same sort of like, "Oh my God," exclamations. And Dragon, I felt like that was a real bonding moment. I don't know. I felt like that moment kind of like brought me back to the ye olde days of like, the Star Wars Episode 3 midnight screening where people were cheering for everything there. But of course, this is a much better movie than Star Wars Episode 3. But suffice to say, Dragon, I had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful second viewing of this. It really doesn't take anything away from the movie. As far as where I'd rank this in the MCU, this is obviously the best Avengers movie, the best crossover event, the big culmination of everything. As a film with a 3-act structure, it is still pretty damn good. It is still really freaking solid. However, I do, Dragon, at this point, I can't put it above Volume 2. Just because Volume 2 had so much heart and so much character building, and I feel like Guardians 2 just kept that story razor focused, and yet it gave us exactly what we wanted it to give us. I don't know. Like, I'm between this and Guardians 2 as my number one MCU movie, but I'm leaning towards Guardians 2 over this, but that does not discount this whatsoever, because like, this is an epic team up movie where Dragon, pretty much everyone with a named role in the MCU, besides, like, I don't know, maybe what, like Vision and Quicksilver, like, almost everyone was here, Dragon. Almost every single player was here.
Yeah, just about. It depends like how nitpicky you want to be, because I mean, Odin wasn't in the movie, but bear in mind he's kind of dead. Yeah, that's bear in mind that's not really stopping people from appearing in this movie. Everybody, even living or dead, is appearing in this film.
So walking out of it, Dragon, really quick to wrap up my thoughts on this thing. I will admit, Dragon, the one thing that I have. Okay, twofold. Like, one, I mentioned to you on Thursday night that I didn't really care for the Thor Big Lebowski gag, and I felt like it kind of overstayed its welcome a little bit. Dragon, I got to tell you, I warmed up to that gag a little bit on the rewatch. I'm still not crazy about how much they kind of shove it down your throat, but I think for the most part, they do some funny and effective character building stuff with it. Dragon, I got to tell you, Act 2, and I'm seeing this from people, like, not just me. Act 2 is a roller coaster ride for sure. It's kind of like a marathon lap through all the greatest hits of the MCU. And I got to tell you, Dragon, individually speaking, I love a lot of stuff in Act 2. I think the highlight of Act 2, which we'll get into, is Hulk versus Stairs. But Dragon, the thing about Act 2 on a rewatch that I feel like is a little bit problematic, and keep in mind, this is just kind of like a nitpick.
Which, by the way, we should probably invoke spoilers right away, because it sounds like you're kind of skirting around some stuff right now.
Yeah, well, the one thing that I find a little problematic about Act 2 is that it feels a little superfluous, right? Like, like I said, all the stuff that we see in Act 2 is fun to various degrees. It's fun to incredible. Like, at the very least, it's fun. At the most, it's like incredible stuff that we're seeing. My issue with it, Dragon, is that I feel like it goes on a little too long, and I feel like the outcome of Act 2 is pretty much inevitable. So, I don't know. It's like rewatching the movie now, I'm like, okay, Act 2, it's like, basically what I'm saying is that when I get this movie eventually on, Disney Plus or whatever streaming service it's going to be on, because I don't buy physical media anymore. Eventually when I do sit down and rewatch this movie in the comfort of my own home, I think I'm mostly going to watch the 2012 sections of Act 2, and then probably fast forward to the Hawkeye and Black Widow fight, because frankly, those are the only two sections with a lot of substance in them. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's other cool stuff that goes down. We get to see Pepper and Howard Stark in the 70s. That's cool. We get to see Jarvis. But I don't know, Dragon. It just felt like this is like my one minor nitpick, is that Act 2 just feels a little bit superfluous, a little bit like, all right, we have to turn these wheels so we can get to the really good stuff.
All right.
But it's still, like, easily the second best MCU movie, and upon further rewatches, it might be number one. So I want you to know that's not me, like, saying, like, oh, it's shit now because of that reason.
Right. All right. So of course, folks, let's just warn right from the start here. We're assuming you, along with like a slew of millions and billions of other people, have seen Endgame, or at least hoping to. And if you're just hoping to, I'm going to warn you right now, as Tiki's going to demonstrate a little bit here. Spoilers will be abound. So again, big old spoiler warning, as it's like clear on, like plain as the nose on your face in the description. So again, beware spoilers, because folks were going to say, I know there's like a big kind of like crackdown, like no spoilers for Endgame. Well, you've been warned, so officially warned, and hopefully warned before Tiki just very likely spoiled a few things. So,
to be fair, it does say Spoilercast, right?
That's what I just got through saying, Tiki. Yes. I'm assuming the viewer is intelligent, but you never know. Anyway, so My thesis on Endgame. I mean, look overall, I'm pretty much so I guess in terms, I mean, echo also something we have in the comments here too, because we have Don Martin joining us, and Don Martin's theater experience um, was he saw it at the Edwards 13 at Irvine, and it was crowded for for flood lines. Basically, it was like flooded with lines,
Uh-huh.
and when he got out of it was like a full-fledged party. Pretty much everybody. It's kind of like the Star Wars thing. Keep doing like
It reminded me of that, Dragon. And then meanwhile, when episode 9, when that trailer came on, the general vibe was like Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
Right. So the point is, really
fallen in that regard.
The point is, it's a really good theater experience, which I can also attest to because the first night I saw it in kind of one of my basically because tickets were amazingly, as I already mentioned, like a whole drawn out thing during movie memoirs. I was able to see it twice, like Thursday and Friday. So Thursday it came out to make sure as there just kind of during the history thing. It took a lot of scrambling points. I got it not the A theater, let's say, but I got to see it in a theater with all my buddies, and the points like the theater was electric, and everybody. Let's just say when Act 3 rolls around, you know what I'm talking about. Act 3 rolls around, everybody's like if people could high five in the theater.
Is the closest thing I've came to in any movie experiencing like the audience collectively wanting to leap off their feet.
Exactly, and I same there, and of course, Friday I was able to see it in Dolby Atmos as well, and of course had a great time with it. Got good, got kind of perfect seats on that one, so it was just all great. So anyway, all right. So my thesis on the film. So as I kind of echoed a little bit during the non-spoiler thing, I was kind of echo a little bit here too. Is that Endgame is what we expected with Infinity War. Infinity War was announced and marketed. We were all expecting what Endgame turned out to be, kind of the big reunion piece, the big 10 years of Marvel film. And of course, that turned out to be an excellent prologue. That's kind of where I've landed on now. Like Infinity War is an excellent prologue.
I come down on Infinity War where it's the Thanos movie. Like, yeah. Infinity War might as well just cut the Avengers out of the title and just literally have the title be Mad Titan Thanos.
Yes, and that's the thing. So, it turned out to be kind of this excellent prologue from Thanos' perspective. Which is, again, that's points. It's Thanos' movie, but it's kind of like a neat. Again, I can't even really call it a part one because it's kind of a prologue for the big reunion piece. But again, it's a prologue that is kind of this great story from Thanos' perspective. And of course, some people argue like it's not technically from Thanos' perspective. I mean, come on, guys, it's from Thanos' perspective.
I mean, it's not from Thanos' perspective. Thanos is definitely the central character.
Exactly, that's the point. The point is, like, Thanos obviously is one of our leads, if not the central focus. And then, of course, like beyond that, you have probably Thor and Doctor Strange as kind of your leads, and Tony Stark is kind of the third there.
Strange, yeah, Tony Stark, right?
I'm saying those are the triangle of our heroes that are really kind of pivotal. Beyond that, again, Thanos is really driving. Again, the point, the Russos made a point of like Thanos is connected to all of our characters and all of our story points, which you and I really love the crap out of. That Thanos has either a respect or a connection to each of the heroes. Every interaction is kind of oddly a pleasant one.
Hey, Jordan, I have to step away for just a minute or two, so can you just transition into the next bullet point when you're done with your thesis?
Right.
Okay, sorry, I'll be right back.
Anyway, so as I was saying, Infinity War is kind of like the excellent prologue from Thanos' perspective, which is a lead-in, essentially, to the ultimate celebration of 10 years of the MCU, which is this film. And I mean that in the best of ways. This is, as I've said before, this is kind of like a Pulp Fiction case level good we're talking about here. I'm saying, like, after seeing this movie, the best way I could really kind of describe it, aside from, again, Infinity War is a great movie. If this movie somehow kicks the crap out of it, and I don't mean to I'm not taking any points away from Infinity War. It's that good. It's kind of the one thing I go to. But beyond that, I guess the other cinematic description I can make is like, for years we still don't know what's in the Pulp Fiction suitcase. But I think after seeing this movie, I have an idea. Somehow Tarantino got a glimpse at Endgame, and he fit it into that little Marcellus Wallace suitcase. Somehow, you never know. So, and of course, as I'm sure a number of people said, and as we kind of echoed, kind of teased in the non-spoiler cast, each act of this film is pretty much a movie that, like, I buy a ticket to any one of these movies that's each of these acts. I'm equally sold in each and every one of them. We all bought a ticket to the first act, and then everything else just kind of surprised us and kept. Basically, each act is a movie that keeps building bigger and better as it goes on. It keeps building upon itself in a great way. And basically coming out of the movie, and I feel like I think a lot of people would agree. You get a sense of completion and accomplishment with characters you love in this movie. That's what I walk out of this movie. Even after a second, that's kind of what I walk out of this movie with, and just kind of reaffirm. Like, yeah, I'm not crazy. I'm feeling this way. Yeah, you feel like a grand sense of completion. I know, yes, and the MCU isn't quite finished. It's going on a hiatus, but it's not quite finished. But you know what? You get a sense of accomplishment, and because the arcs are complete. We're completing the arcs of a number of characters, especially some favorite characters. This film captures the fun and gravitas of Marvel in a big way. And the thing I'd stress is and I don't mean this in a negative way. Of course, the MCU is kind of known for kind of a famous patented formula. Like, think of formula not in the way of like it's formulaic, but think of formula in a way of like, it's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Formulas for like some of the most wonderful creations known to man. Like, like the everlasting gobstopper formula. That's kind of what you have with Marvel. It's a winning formula. It's kind of gone down, kind of built the brand on in a good way. And what I'd say, even with that in mind, this film, it's not formula, it's strategy for an epic Hail Mary conclusion. That's the best way I could phrase the movie. It's strategy for an epic Hail Mary conclusion. It's like for all the marbles, and it's something big. It's something like, you got to be there and see, and that's kind of what this film so far. I mean, folks, I'll tease it to you right now, folks. This movie is going to make all the monies. All the monies. I mean, it's done some historic stuff already that I wouldn't believe. That within essentially four, let's say 5 days or so, worldwide, it's already on the chart for like worldwide for the highest grossing movies of all time. It's already there. I mean, I knew it was gonna get there, but not this fast. And within the first week, imagine what it's gonna do week two. Anyway, more on that later, I guess. So, all that said, what we're going to do here, folks, we're going to kind of, again, kind of, as I mentioned with the three-act structure, we're going to kind of break down the major talking points and reactions to kind of the big, like, the big moments of Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. So we can kind of our three movies here, we're going to break them down. We're going to try not to take too long with it, but it is Endgame. And again, it's kind of the end of kind of Phase 3 of the MCU, kind of the big transitioning point. So forgive us if we expound a smidgen. So yeah. So of course, we're in this for the long haul, folks. In other words, we're in the end game now. So let's get started. We're going to start with Act 1. So basically, folks, it's pretty much going chronologically as much as we can through this. It's going to be kind of like you're watching the movie again, only like kind of with the commentator's reactionary take from it all. Just kind of getting to the points. The points you've seen the movie, so we're not going to spend a lot of time just recapping it, but just kind of reacting to it, if you will. Okay, anyway, so Act 1. Let's talk about the start of the movie. We got the Hawkeye opening. And we got the Hawkeye opening in Act 1, with the Barton family. They're hanging out, and of course, we have the snap occur, and we kind of see it from Clint Barton's perspective. Now, what I love about this opening specifically is this is an example of the Russos. There's so much of this throughout the movie. Right off the bat, straight out of the gate, we have an example of the Russos listening to the audience. There's a lot of response to, again, not criticism, but kind of the discussion of Infinity War and a lot of the stuff of like, again, the Russos have always been great with this. Like, they're guys who can really stand up to the scrutiny of quibbles with plot, or some logic, some adjustments of logic. And again, they really do their homework. Again, they have like a lot of stuff figured out for the second part, so they always kind of wait to kind of see it kind of all kind of come to the surface by Endgame. So the point is, you have a lot of a director, a director and writer team that really knows exactly how to respond to the audience here. Because right off the gate, what we have wonderfully is an example. One, we answer right that. Okay,
sorry.
Right at the start, we're talking Hawkeye, the opening.
Okay, so you got through the background and everything.
Again, there's no. Yeah.
Oh, right. There's no background. Okay, my bad. Okay, so yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Anyway, so what I'm saying, Tiki, is I love that right at the gate we have an example of the Russos listening to the fans and the audience and kind of addressing stuff that's kind of been talked about since Infinity War and vice versa. They're like answering stuff right at the gate, just showing you, okay, guys, this is for the fans. They know we know what we're getting in for here, and these guys they checked all the boxes in the right way here. And that we address Hawkeye right off the bat. Okay, where was Hawkeye during Infinity War? Well, he's like what we said, and we're kind of seeing it visualized right now. He's under house arrest. We see that visually with the ankle monitor, and of course, he's just going to spend some time with the family. All is good, all is nice there, and of course, we, the audience, if you've seen Infinity War, you know what happens. So either you know the tragedy that's looming, or this is just a really economic recap for those who have not seen it. So again, we talk about the snap and people vanishing. We see it with the character we care about. So we do all of this versus just kind of like exposition at the start of like a couple 3 weeks back, everybody disappeared because we lost. We don't have to spell it out. We're just showing it, and people get it. I thought it was a really great move how to open the movie.
Yeah, it's just a great way to bring Hawkeye into it. Of course, Hawkeye being and of course, Dragon, as you know, this scene very much calls to mind. I'm sorry, we have to get a leftovers counter on this podcast. Because this scene very much calls to mind the leftovers. I mean, it's framed in like the same way that they would do a scene like this, where it's like you know what's going to happen, you're just kind of waiting for it to happen, and when it does happen, you're not even gonna. That's the thing that really reminded me of the leftovers, Dragon, is that there's a little bit of dust left over, but we don't see any of these people actually evaporate. You know what I mean? In the Hawkeye scene, like we've seen them evaporate into dust before. But in this scene, it's just purely like they're gone. Like Hawkeye just turned away at really unopportune moments, and they're just gone. They're just out of nowhere. So it very much sets the movie on a somber tone, gets us into the mindset of Hawkeye going forward, and is a very bold move.
It's all the recap we need. So it's just story-wise, these guys again, they're the team that we've had for God knows how many Marvel movies at this point. Again, we have the Russos and we have McFeely and Marcus as the writers, and this team's always been together since honestly technically the writers have been there longest with Captain America, First Avenger onward, and basically these guys have been on since Winter Soldier onward with Captain America franchise and then our two Avengers movie here. So. All right. Okay, so let's move on to, of course, a big looming in space here. Tony Stark, he was stuck in space, and how the heck is Tony and how the heck are Tony and Nebula going to get out of space? Like, what's going to happen here? So, the idea is like, so these guys have been trapped. So we start the movie off 3 weeks since the snap, which we kind of epitomized through Hawkeye. There's 3 weeks in space. What I love about this is Tony. He's has a crippling fear and helplessness of space, especially after facing Thanos himself here. So, and losing Peter Parker, like Tony's in a really bad place, both physically and mentally. And of course, we saw what happens to him mentally with Iron Man 3. So again, this is like Tony's worst nightmare. It's even worse than the cave. It's 20 times worse than the cave.
Yeah, but I like how we get a little levity right out front with the football, and Tony probably throwing the game to Nebula to give her like a small victory.
Very likely, and with that, I like that we see a genuine.
Put a pin in that because small victories is one of the big core themes of the movie.
Yes, and with that, I really like that we see a friendship, like a genuine friendship, develop in a relatively short time between Tony and Nebula. Like she's been patching him up, calls her the Blue Meanie. It's really it's really neat.
He's only a little bit sadistic.
Yeah. And I like that what I kind of got on a rewatch for this, Tiki. What I really got on a rewatch for the Tony Stark and space stuff is that Tony, he had a really lonely ending in Infinity War. It's the idea that Tony Stark's that, like looking at where we left him off there again, he lost everyone he cares about. It's just kind of him and Nebula kind of drifting in space, and he's in the most visually lonely place he could possibly be. Things are hopeless. The air supply is dwindling in again 3 weeks with very little food and water, again just kind of rationing it out. All it's like Nebula's like forgoing food to give to Tony, all that sort of stuff. But I love that again Tony, we see him in this lonely place where we left him off, and he's saved in essence by a part of a bigger universe. He's saved by a part of a bigger universe. To kind of quote Nick Fury there, and I love that that's where we start this movie off and kind of seeing where Tony's arc goes there. He is saved by the very thing that Nick Fury promised him, the formation of the Avengers. And if you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of it, of course, it's by Captain Marvel, which, again, we kind of see the origin of that idea in the Captain Marvel movie. So in Captain Marvel is the rescue. So in that regard, kind of Captain Marvel being the savior of Tony Stark makes a lot of sense in that perspective. It kind of makes even more sense in the rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, so Captain Marvel. So just mainly what we get with her, right? We kind of at the start here. Overall, how do you feel about Captain Marvel?
I mean, I don't want to say she's a weak point in the movie, but she's definitely not one of the stronger elements in the movie. I feel like, oh God, okay, like I feel like there was an opportunity here to really integrate her into the team, and they pretty much like blew it. And it's not major because, frankly, like with her kind of like, I don't know, Dragon. I really didn't like Captain Marvel in this movie, looking back on it, and she only gets about 15 minutes worth of screen time, which is fine. But honestly, for me, I would have just kept her out of this entirely and just maybe like led into Phase 4 with her or something, because I feel like her presence in this movie is like, I don't know. First of all, I thought it would have been way more satisfying to have like Rocket and Pepper or something go up and save Tony. I don't know how that would have happened, but just to have Captain Marvel do it right off the bat after about 5 minutes of suspense was just kind of felt a little like, oh, of course they would do Captain Marvel. Yeah. It's a little Deus Ex Machina to me, Dragon.
But again, look, I'd argue the Deus Ex Machina point with the fact that, again, it's kind of representative of Nick Fury, and again, like the whole, like she's coming back for Fury, and we're kind of using an element of Fury to save Tony Stark, which kind of pays that off. So that's kind of a.
But then we get back to Avengers HQ, then there's even more weirdness with Captain Marvel, because it seems like Captain Marvel's like been with them for a while. Like they know who she is. She's part of the plan and everything. And yet there's obviously like a big disconnect between her and the rest of the Avengers, which, Dragon, I didn't know how to feel about some of that stuff, because I know that the Captain Marvel stuff in this movie was shot before her actual movie, but some of it honestly kind of felt like it was almost a self-parody of Brie Larson, like Brie Larson's awful campaign trail that we're not going to get into.
Okay, well, look, it's just real quick. I want to acknowledge this because I want to get your take on this, because I don't know if you know about this or not. I heard, and it's rumored. Emphasis on rumored. I don't know how official. I think it's I don't think it's true, but it'd be really fascinating if it was true.
What, the two cuts thing?
Yeah, the two cuts thing. So the idea, the two cuts rumor is that they shot more scenes of Captain Marvel here, which would explain the mid credit scene in Captain Marvel, which again is kind of like, that was the thing I was kind of skirting around during the Spoilercast, is
right.
the non-Spoilercast, is that we do have a scene here, and my thing is that I think the movie plays fine with that, but here's my issue with it. So in Captain Marvel, the mid-credit scene, basically the main reason people needed to see Captain Marvel was for the mid-credit scene, and the mid-credit scene, of course, shows you, okay, what the pager. So, the pager, it signals, and, they're basically been watching this mystery pager that they found because it was a link to Fury, and of course, Fury's gone. Like, what the heck does this thing mean? And she shows up, and the idea is, like, you can fill in the blanks. Okay, she's working with him, and then that kind of fills in the blanks how she finds Tony Stark. Now, I think the film plays well without that, but here's the issue. The thing that, again, it's fine as is, but the drawback is that we don't explain what the deal with the pager was, because the pager was a huge deal at the end of Infinity War. That's the thing. It's less the fact that we don't need to establish the whole dynamic she has with the team, but we do need to explain what the deal with that pager was. And I feel anyone coming in clean to this, which again, I'm not saying that's a great idea. I'm just saying, some people are coming in clean to this, and again, as you've said, again, people would probably be in better shape with this than they are with Infinity War, because you do have a lot of a recap in Act 2 with this.
Yeah, but Dragon, just in general with the dialogue of Captain Marvel, how she's basically saying like that she's better than everyone else, and that she's like way more important than everyone else because she's a cosmic hero. I mean, I don't know. Like, did you get that? Like, in some of her lines of dialogue, she was straight up talking down to our heroes.
Well, let me put it to you this way, Tika. There is one moment with her that, I prefer her when she reappears in Act 3. That's where I prefer Captain Marvel. And that's the thing. She has one really redeeming moment to me. There's like one truly good Captain Marvel moment. It's a real subtle thing, but it's a really good moment.
Is it the "Hey there, Peter Parker" moment?
Well, yeah. Well, you're going to bring it up now, then yes, that's.
But well, I'm sorry. I agree that moment was like, yeah, hey, where was that Brie Larson the whole time?
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying, let me put it this way. See, I said during the all Captain Marvel, you and I are just kind of like, there, it's fine. Could have been a lot better. It was just fine. That's kind of where we're at in Captain Marvel, right? And my point is that with that, you and I were holding out hope that it was going to have like a Doctor Strange effect, and I think that it's. I'm a little more sold on her aesthetically. Like on a surface level, I'm more sold on Captain Marvel after this movie. That I could see more of her, but I'm not like, man, I want to see more.
Level, like on a personality level, I'm not any more sold on her than I was, with the exception of that little Spider-Man bit at the end, I guess.
And that's the thing, the Spider-Man bit, that's kind of the foot in the door for me. It's like, okay, I'm open to seeing more Captain Marvel, but it wasn't like the Doctor Strange factor. Oh man, she's going to impress like Doctor Strange is every time we see more of them. Where again, it wasn't quite to that level, but by the same token, I see what you're talking about. That in Act 1, this occurred to me a little bit more in the rewatch because I was more accepting of it the first watch. Hey, Captain Marvel, she's joined the gang. Thor likes her, all right. But then you're saying, yeah, Thor likes her. She's she's I don't know, she's kind of turning her nose up a little bit, like not to the point where it was with the Captain Marvel movie, but I don't know. I think I want to be too hard on her, but it was like, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying is what I'm getting.
Okay.
But anyways, the point, like, basically, she serves her role. She's a useful powerhouse, but not much to, not much to the.
She definitely serves the role to actually physically get to Thanos, so that's important.
That's the thing. Like she doesn't serve much to she doesn't. She's useful as a powerhouse, but not too much screen time or ego wise.
So what you're saying, Dragon, is that she is a plot device.
In the beginning, yeah. In the beginning, she's definitely. That's the thing. I won't disagree. In the beginning, she's a plot device. Again, like again, I think it's a little like basically if you watch this before you watch Captain Marvel, you'd probably be in good shape. But then, of course, Captain Marvel probably flesh things out a little bit. But probably, I think I'm agreeing with your sentiments that probably Phase 4 could have kicked off with Captain Marvel. I think we would have been fine.
Okay.
But anyway, so the point is like she's better in some places than others. Like again, like when we get to the next act. Anyway, point being, so anyway, all right. So moving past the kind of Captain Marvel stuff, so we get to the real meat and potatoes of it all here in the first 10 minutes or so.
Farming Thanos.
Yeah, as I like to call it, disarming farming Thanos.
Disarming farming Thanos.
By the way,
okay, how fucking great is that shirt that Thanos is wearing?
Yeah, people. My friends were really tickled by the shirt. I don't know. It was just like I kind of heard some kind of fun laughter in the audience. I thought it was my buddies because they're all kind of like surrounding, and I was like, yeah, no, I guess the shirt is kind of funny because it's the thing. Thanos in Infinity Gauntlet.
Well, I think the thing is, Thanos is like such a big, like larger than life, like Machiavellian Darth Vader style character. That to see him in just an average everyday wife beater, and people already kind of joke that his costume in Infinity War kind of looked like a wife beater. So now he's actually like in a wife beater. I don't know. I think there's a funny contrast there.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think what's funny about it is the fact, like, where did he get like a big T-shirt like that? That's the real question. Right. I think that's the kind of
existence, Dragon.
Well, the idea is like in Infinity Gauntlet, he wore like kind of a farmer's outfit too, so they're kind of meeting in the middle with that. So they kind of made it a little bit more. I think they played into the wife. I'll admit, I think they kind of played into the wife beater thing. Let me address some comments here and also welcome some people because we got Don Martin, of course, and we also have Little Blue. So welcome, Little Blue, and
Little Blue. How you doing?
So Little Blue says, in my opinion, I thought Captain Marvel was pretty good in Endgame. And look, I'll just say so we don't have to get hung up on the Captain Marvel.
Yeah, we thought it was pretty good too. We just weren't like blown away by it.
Exactly. Like again, Captain Marvel was I don't want to say fine because again, the Captain Marvel movie was fine. She was improved here, but not improved to the amount that I would have liked. But again, it was an improvement, so I'm not complaining.
It wasn't like a Doctor Strange or Hulk style upgrade.
Yeah, it could have been. Point is, it could have been more of a Doctor Strange upgrade, but it was just kind of like it was kind of halfway to a Doctor Strange upgrade. But still, it's an upgrade, so I'm not complaining. Anyway, and again, I think better in the third act. But anyway, speaking of this point, Captain Marvel does transition this into the whole farm and Thanos thing because it's like one we had Tony Stark. It's about Tony Stark return, like the sickly Tony Stark thing, man.
Yeah, the makeup effects on that were almost haunting. Just how much this guy has gone from the badass leader of the whole thing to just like someone who's almost shaken with his core reality at this point.
You gotta remember, again, he was pretty much re-traumatized with you kind of stuck in space after failing to defeat his kind of psychological abuser in a way with Thanos.
And then, of course, we get a Cap versus Tony debate like right off the bat, which I think they definitely stuck to landing on. I would have been disappointed if they didn't address the tension, if they kind of just wrote over that.
And again, to you, that's this team, these directors, these writers know exactly what they want to say here. It's kind of perfectly. Again, they didn't forget anything here. Because again, I love that we brought up one of the really great lines from Ultron. I love that we addressed it in the scene here, where it's that Captain America's refuting of like putting a armor around the world idea, and was like, we're going to face the outside threats together. And I love how Tony turned that against Cap here when he said, like, yeah, but we weren't together because of Civil War. You left and we were separated in Infinity War. And he blames Cap for the reason they lost. And especially, again, losing, like the first thing Tony says to Steve is that I lost the kid. He lost Spider-Man. He feels, I love that Spider-Man, again, is kind of the great midpoint between Cap and Iron Man still. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, he blames Infinity War on Cap, and it's and again, I like that it's kind of the opposite of Tony's return from the cave in Iron Man 1. He took the loss a lot harder than he did there. Where again, it's kind of a sobering experience where Tony is coming back having learned something, but in this case, it's gonna, again, Tony did learn something. It's going to take him a while to really kind of enact it, because right now he's just feeling kind of the bitterness and just kind of like the loss before he's feeling kind of he had a wake-up call, but not necessarily like, the positive wake-up call, like I'm going to abolish making weapons quite yet,
Mm-hmm.
So we have, of course, Cap said, let's go get that SOB. Once Captain Marvel's like, yeah, let's go kill Thanos. We get a location on him because, the Infinity Gems were used, and therefore we have a location to find, go to space and interrupt Farmer Thanos. Which, by the way, I love that we just interrupt him, like just kind of midway he's making a stew out of his plants, his space plants, and then, of course... Oh god, it's just this interruption, like a Hulkbuster pops out of the, it's just so cool. Like a Hulkbuster pops out. We have Captain Marvel's kind of getting him in a headlock and just going to take in charge. Again, this is the benefit of Captain Marvel in kind of the powerhouse capacity. But yeah, okay, Captain Marvel, she's not hogging too much of the screen time, but she's making an impact. Cool. And then of course, this Cap come walking in, just like tough talking Thanos, like this is all great. Just. Anyway, and of course we have, we remiss we didn't mention Thor's contribution to all this, Tiki.
Well, yeah, I mean, Thor at the beginning is very interesting how they play him compared to what he's going to turn into after the 5-year gap, because I don't know, like, it's interesting, Dragon. Like, I almost kind of feel like I wanted a whole movie of this kind of like, sort of depressed Thor. But by the same token, it wouldn't have been as fun as what we got, and Thor's always been a lighthearted character, so I'm a little mixed on it.
Well, remember, he's feeling really guilty over Infinity War.
Yeah, I know. I know. I get that.
But I love that. But there is a splish of comedy in there where it says, well, first off, he goes for the. I love again. It's like this one time about the Russos. They're addressing the fan criticism. We're like, why didn't he go for the gauntlet? Or like how it should have ended gets addressed like right at the start here. Goes for the gauntlet. Then he goes for the head. I love it's like just as Nebula gets the praise from her father or one of her fathers. Again, we can't use proud of her boy because
well, of course, I don't think you mentioned that Thanos literally snapped the stones out of existence, which of course is that's kind of takes away the reason why they were there to begin with, to get Thanos to use the stones.
Yeah, we take away the fix with him. We do a lot in the first 10 minutes or so. Like, we take away the instant fix. Basically, we get, like, the whole sell of the movie within 10 minutes of, like, okay, we're going to get the stones, and that's what all the marketing is, because they kept a lot of secrets through this movie, and I love them for it. It's like we're going to go get the stones back, and, of course, like, how are we going to get the stones back? They've been destroyed first 10 minutes. No! So again, I
love how fucked up Thanos' face looks from the second snap.
Exactly, and that's what we do so smartly in the story right out of the gate in Act 1. We're setting up the toll that the stones take. Of course, you remember, Infinity War, he snaps, and of course the gauntlet's all kind of singed and fried. And now we're seeing, again, if you did something like that again, it's going to have an even bigger toll. Basically, what we thought were power-ups with Thanos in the other movie, where, again, it's a power-up for sure, but it's also, again, it's taking a great toll, especially if you keep snapping like it's going out of style. It's going to leave a mark. And again, to do that...
I think it's such a smart way to handle the to limit the power of the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm really impressed with that because, of course, in the comics, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the comics, it could pretty much do fucking anything, right? Like, it was pretty much an all powerful. Like, there was no way that anything was going to be a hindrance to the stones, right?
In essence, yes, and they worked out. And what I appreciate, by the way, I appreciate that we did have a few logical limitations to the Infinity Gauntlet. The main one being like he has to close the fist to work it, which they used during all the fight scenes in the last movie. Like they have to try to don't let Thanos close his fist. And in this case, again, the big thing I think people keep overlooking with this movie is that people keep saying, "Well, he's just snapping with it. Why? You can do other things with the gauntlet." That's true, but again, if you have all the stones, one snap is the ultimate power thing. If you have a few stones, then you can use them all creatively and everything. But yeah, again, that's what we already got a lot of that in Infinity War. But again, the snap is like that's the almighty right there. That's the big reality. Again, you have like the power, the infinite Big Bang power with that one. Again, literally, the Big Bang created the Infinity Stone, so that's kind of what power you got going on there.
Right.
So. Anyway, so the point is we address this within the first 10 minutes, and we kill Thanos. Like, head removed, and of course, Thor does have a great line. Again, a little bit of comedy within the drama here is saying, I went for the head, which gets like, oh boy. So,
and then at that point, Dragon, like, this is just like a huge, like, Empire Strikes Back style, like, where the hell are we going to go with this movie from here?
Have a matchstick moment within the first 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's like, what are they going to do? So, speaking of which, 5 years later. So, 5 years later, we kind of have a new kind of our status quo we got going on here. We have Captain America leading a support group for.
I love Captain America in the support group. That's it's so in line with his character.
By the way, my little headcanon.
Talking about the small little victories with people that he doesn't consider any less significant than himself.
Yep, and by the way, I love in my own little headcanon. I like to think that's his tribute to Falcon because like the friendship they forged in Winter Soldier and like him kind of seeing him do the veterans thing and his veteran support group. I like to think it's his like little tribute to Sam. My own 2 cents. But yeah, Cap. What's so fascinating about Cap's arc is in this scene here. So Cap, you're right, but the little victories, that's great. But also, what he's doing in addition to that is that he's even to Joe Russo, which I love the little fun meta touches. Like, hey, Joe Russo's in the scene, and Jim Starlin.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Joe Russo, the guy who's talking about the date he was going on. The idea is like this guy was married, then his partner got snapped away, and now he's moving off for 5 years. Which again, that's the really great thing about the status quo, and the status quo that essentially we're still going to be working with, presumably, going forward in the MCU.
I feel like one of the underreported parts of Far From Home is that Far From Home is going to deal with the aftermath of this stuff in a pretty significant way, I imagine.
In essence, I mean, what's really cool about this is we kind of have what we have with the Netflix shows, specifically Daredevil, and I guess Luke Cage with Harlem and everything to an extent as well, but mainly Daredevil, the incident. Of course, we always have the after. Of course, the Kingpin comes to power because of the incident, because of the first Avengers movie, and I think we're going to have like a lot of stuff like that. Again, not with Netflix, unfortunately, but it's kind of going forward with a lot of stuff. Kind of aftermath wise, and with that, though, what I love here again, talking to Joe Russo, also Jim Starlin, the creator of Thanos, who I've met, by the way, nice guy. He's actually been he's kind of on the rocks with Marvel. I guess he's fine with the cinematic, with the movies. Just I think he's been a little on the rocks with Marvel, the company. But again, I'm sure with Endgame coming out, he might be getting some royalties for Thanos. But I don't know how he's doing with all that. The point is, he's in the movie anyway. Sorry, focusing on the thing here. So. Cap is a proponent of telling people to move on, and what I love about this is that again it's a very Winter Soldier-esque scene, not just in the setting, but again in that Cap is the man out of time trying to move forward. That's what that whole film's about, and that's kind of what we continue doing here. Is that Cap's arc is really put in perspective in this film and in this scene here, where he's moved on from his old life and the lost love, and kind of recap that here in a really nice, natural way. And is into this new, different world. Which now, I read something Chris Evans was talking about recently. It was so fascinating that Chris Evans always viewed Cap as an outsider. It kind of reflected a bit of himself in the character. Feels a little bit kind of disconnected from people sometimes. Feels like kind of keeps to himself, that sort of thing. Where Cap again is very much kind of a loner in that no one else has that shared life experience except for Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's in the status quo where everybody kind of reflects Cap's struggle in a way. So in some sense, I like
Man
to
at
think,
a time thing.
yeah,
Where time in general as a construct just seems a little irrelevant these days.
yeah, and I like to think that Cap may not feel that odd sense. I think Cap kind of feels an odd sense of community in the post snap in a way. Would you
Right.
agree?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of which, so again, so that's what Cap's doing. Cap's trying to, he's telling people to move forward, but he knows like deep down, like again, as per his character, like I want to move forward, but some part of me just can't. And he kind of echoes that the Black Widow. And speaking of Black Widow, like Black Widow, she's running the Avengers now. She's kind of the head honcho of the Avengers, the more scattered, kind of the global. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it. Here is that Black Widow is kind of ushered in the kind of a global Avengers that kind of spans into space with Captain Marvel now, and kind of like around the globe with like Wakanda. And because I'm guessing, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if M'Baku's running things in Wakanda or if it's Okoye, because like now she's, I guess, the highest.
I would guess it's Okoye.
That's possible. I mean, again, bear in mind M'Baku might have just absurd because he's like a leader of a tribe there. I don't know if like the whole tribe. It doesn't matter. Point being, Okoye, but I think Okoye kind of gets the shaft a little bit in the movie based on the. We
I
know.
would like to see more from her. I agree. I mean, it's funny because in general, I feel like all the Black Panther characters kind of got the shaft. Like even when Black Panther comes out at the end, it's like he doesn't really get that much to do.
That's the thing. Here's the thing. You're right about that. And what I'm saying is like Okoye, because there was this whole thing about why wasn't Danny Guerrera? No, not Danny.
Denai Guerrera.
Yes. Why isn't she on listed on the poster? Yet she appears on the poster, and of course we now know the reason. It's like, well, yeah, because she doesn't really factor in the movie that much. That's why.
Right.
Like, why doesn't she get a quantum suit? Like,
of course, she does get the explanation about why Captain Marvel can't be there because seismic earthquakes, Dragon.
Now, I have a theory about that. I'm going to save that for spec. I have an interesting theory about that. But
okay.
Anyway, but I get the point that it's less seismic earthquake. It's more like Captain Marvel. Just again, it's kind of a meta addressment of like what we usually say for like why aren't the other Avengers always in the other one's movies? It's a very simple logic of well they're dealing with other things right now. Again, she's she's patrolling space right now. Kind of hectic like now the populations have now people are getting a little rambunctious probably. So and by the way, I'll address it here. I love Captain Marvel's new look better than her. I like the short hair on Captain Marvel. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it to tell you the truth, but I don't. I mean, I think it looks better. I'm not like, oh my god, like that's it. That's the look.
I guess I bring it up because I kind of associate the better sides of Captain Marvel with this new haircut. That might be it. I don't know. I've just kind of occurred the more likable portions of Captain Marvel have her with the short hair. I don't know how intentional that is. Maybe they're trying to rebrand her. I don't know.
Oh god, no. I mean, I think with the short hair, they definitely are trying to rebrand her. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the short hair stuff was done in with reshoots. Although I have no basis for that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Anyway, so let's see. So again, with the world building that kind of transitions us to kind of our next kind of big point going on here. I love that we have. I love the idea. Like we see the vanished memorial. We see the memorial, like all the names and listed. Again, it's a really haunting image. We see kind of almost like the cemetery in Arlington Heights now, but like everywhere where you have these. Just like rows and rows of these giant, almost I guess the proper comparison might be like the Vietnam memorial. Like you have like all these names on these giant tombstones that says the vanished, and beyond that too we have like all these names just kind of written down, and beyond that we have these storage. I love the storage space thing. I love the idea that all these people are kind of disappearing right now. We have these issues of overpopulation now kind of being messed with, and you can imagine the issues that are going to follow once going forward too, like people returning.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. I don't know if we're ever going to address in this universe.
Sure, but anyway, well, speaking to just the world building that we do have, like the idea, like the oceans are a little cleaner now. You don't have many people on boats, and like you can see whales and stuff. And
I like the line about seeing the whales. That was really subtle.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We have things like that, and the thing I really like that kind of transitions us is that we have these storage spaces where people's vehicles and their items and their possessions, again, they have to make room for other people, so they have to go somewhere. So the idea is like they've categorized all the people on those tombstones that they can find over 5 years have been kind of putting their items and their possessions have been put in storage, and that's where we find Scott Lang after, again, kind of a Deus Ex Machina rat just kind of walks across the van.
Yeah, but you know what? That Deus Ex Machina
Hey, I'm
rat,
fine with it, all right? I got no problem
I
with the
don't
rat.
care, Rat Dragon. That's what it is.
I'm just saying people are obsessed with the rat. That's why I bring it up.
I really, it's just one of those comic book, like how else would he get out of there? You know what I mean?
Like I don't care. Look, whatever gets us Ant-Man, I'm fine with. Right? I'm fine with it. I mean, look, a rat eventually. That's the thing. That's why it took him 5 years. What more do you want? Okay, so
That's what I'm
eventually,
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they would have had him, like, I think the only other alternative is that they find the van and then someone uses the van to get him out. But the problem with that is, like you said, Dragon, the van's been sitting in storage for God knows how long.
yeah, and that brings us to so kind of Ant-Man. He's returned. He's doing he's doing the McFly walk, as I like to call it. He's kind of walking through kind of the new times, kind of piecing together what's going on here, just like him with his little wagon full of stuff in the storage space. And you have that really haunting bit with the kid, like, kid, what
Yeah.
happened?
What's going on here? The kid just turns around and rides away.
But again, that speaks to, again, there's still a looming sense of tragedy. But I really like this, like, he's just walking through neighborhoods of people that are like mostly probably now abandoned neighborhoods, if not mostly abandoned neighborhoods. Just they're in disrepair and like grass is growing because there's no one there. It's like when you have abandoned houses on a block or something.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's something again, as he's doing the McFly walk, and then of course he kind of hits the vanish and he puts two and two together. It's kind of like, where's my father? Where's George McFly? It's like one of those movies. There's a lot of Back to the Future 2 in this movie if you haven't pieced it together. Anyway, so we have this beautiful scene, this beautiful reunion with Cassie, and I love this scene. I know we probably knew it was coming.
Before we even get to that, I love him just on the memorial walls, just no Cassie, please no Cassie, please no Cassie.
No, I'm so on the edge of my, because we know it's going to be fine, but still it's like, oh man, poor Ant-Man, look what he's going through right now. Like again, he's just like a father making sure his daughter is still alive. Again, I love how in contrast Scott Lang's story goes to Hawkeye's story. I love kind of these two fathers and their differing experiences. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. So Ant-Man, and I'd agree absolutely with Donovan that Ant-Man is kind of our secret hero of the whole thing, because Ant-Man, obviously, he brings a lot of hope, but also he brings kind of the solution. Basically, this movie makes Ant-Man and the Wasp retroactively probably the most important movie in the MCU, technically.
And Thor the Dark World.
Well, I mean, it's in there. I'm just saying, but seriously, Ant-Man.
I want to rewatch Thor the Dark World.
Sure. But actually, before I forget about it, and I'm glad you brought that, because I meant to mention too way earlier on, is that what's so great about this movie too is that this movie references, and some people are really lost in a couple of these, but I mean, seriously, this movie does reference every single one, either references or pays off an element of every single one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films.
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, even some people say, "What about the Incredible Hulk?" Well, again, you see what he kind of found a piece going on there, so that's a resolution to Incredible Hulk. It's there.
And we see General Ross in the background as well.
Oh, sure, but that one's more of like he was just kind of there. But yeah, you're right, though. I mean,
he appeared in Incredible Hulk first, so.
I mean, you're absolutely right. So my point is, like, I'd you could see like a reference or something to each and every one of the Marvel films. I think that's really cool. It's really special. It's 10 years of Marvel on screen. It's nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, let's see. So Ant-Man, of course, he brings the hope and he brings the time travel idea based on the quantum realm and the quantum realm tunnel that he has in the van.
All right, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the logic of the time travel, because I've seen other people get like really hung up on it.
I know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I feel like they explain it well enough. And sure, like with any time travel thing, it's like you could poke a million different plot holes into it. And honestly, out of any section of the movie, Act 2 is probably the movie to point plot holes at. But Dragon, it's the whole time travel thing is like a we don't care. You know what I mean? It's just all right, this is such a bombastic idea, and it's such a crazy, like, cosmic plan. I love the time heist phrase, Dragon. I'm sure you got a kick out of that too.
I did, but Liam, we're going to get to the time heist when we get to Act 2. So let's.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with you, though. I do. I do love the time heist. I love Ant-Man's rant about the time heist later on, especially. But we'll get there. All right. So speaking. Okay, the point is, like, now we have a plan. We have time travel as our way of like the undoing things, kind of getting the stones, kind of heist for the stones. But before we can do that, we got to get the band back together. So first off, we get Tony Stark. So let's check in with Tony Stark 5 years later. Start us off.
Yeah, so the little girl that they have playing Tony's daughter is just so adorable.
Yep, little Morgan Stark. It's man, it's so darn cute. I
The
get
great thing about it is that, like, as far as kid acting goes, she's not even like a great kid actor, but she's so genuine. Like, she acts so genuinely like what a 5-year-old would act like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the idea of Tony Stark having a family. Of course, we kind of introduced him with kind of a surrogate child with Spider-Man Homecoming. If you want to really want to grand scheme it, though, again, this is Tony Stark with the he kind of has the Barton life right now. He has Hawkeye's life that he saw in Age of Ultron for the first time.
Uh-huh.
So I love that at the end of Ultron, we had a payoff with with both Tony and Steve, where again Steve rejected the simple life. He wanted that life, but he realized it's not for him. He says, that's what the guy in the ice wanted, but not me. And it was kind of a bit of a tragic bit for him, but he's kind of moving on. And Tony, again, he joked about it in that movie. He says, maybe I should buy Pepper a farm, and we could. Because again, he did do that. It's what he got in this movie. He got the farm, he got the kid, and everything, and he went for the domestic life. And I got to tell you, the domestic life looks good on Tony. What do you think?
Yeah, it does. It does. There's so many genuine like character interaction bits. The whole thing where Tony is genuinely happy to see these people, but he doesn't want to talk shop. You know what I mean? It's like it feels like old friends coming together to have an awkward reunion where they're having to discuss something that they don't necessarily want to discuss but have to discuss. It feels so genuine with that.
Absolutely. And what I really love about why Tony's very anti-time travel. And what I love about this is that Tony Stark, one of the, obviously, again, based on the trauma that he suffered, losing everybody, and of course, just kind of the big failure that was kind of like the effort to prevent the snap. I love that he probably considered, again, we see that he considered time travel. He's thought about it, and obviously we see like the visualization of, okay, he's actually been thinking about this, but he's moved on. Again, he doesn't want to risk undoing the 5 years, so that just kind of brought joy into his life here. And I love that this is complete contrast to Captain America, and Captain America saying, most people move on, but not us. So again, I love that. Again, it's Cap sacrificing in the grand scheme of things, Cap sacrificing the American dream to protect it for others. If you want to look at it in that capacity, which I think is kind of interesting. But but yeah, at the end of the day, Tony Stark, he kind of he's thinking about it, he's kind of turning him down, doesn't want to talk shop and everything. But again, we have that beautiful scene where he's looking at the photo he has of him and Peter Parker, and it just calls to mind Tony's like Spider-Man inspired Tony to commit the family. Spider-Man and Hawkeye, of course, kind of inspired Tony to commit to the family life. And he always has that responsibility for Peter Parker eating away at him. So it's kind of the right thing to do. That Tony, again, it's kind of Tony Stark has always been kind of this the narcissistic futurist, but deep down he is motivated by nostalgia and heartfelt choice, and I think that's what the photo of Peter Parker is very representative. He has to do the right thing, even if it's in, again, that shows you why he's a hero. It's like one of those really great bits.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about the Jolly Green Giant, man.
Oh my God, this was unexpected.
So what I love about God, I love what we did with the Hulk so much in this movie. He is basically, so the idea is that Bruce Banner and the Hulk, they both were kind of defeated at the hands of Thanos. Hulk took it really personally, which is why he didn't show up in Infinity War. And Bruce Banner, he's again, the point is like they had some issues to work out, and the way they worked out these issues is that he mentions it in the line of dialogue that he did some, instead of treating the Hulk, and this is the big reference to the Incredible Hulk, by the way, instead of treating the Hulk like a sickness, which of course is the direct reference to what we saw him do throughout all of the Incredible Hulk movie, instead of treating the Hulk like a sickness, he embraced him. And he basically did an experiment that kind of allowed him to be a middle ground with the Hulk. So that's kind of how that physically happened. What I love about it too is that again, of course, this is a really great the deep cuts reference, by the way, because in Infinity Gauntlet you did have a smart Hulk in that story, so you kind of get that too. That's kind of neat.
One of my favorite bits of comedy comes here with the kids wanting to take the picture with Hulk, and then Ant-Man wants them to take a picture, and then we get that great. I'm sure it must have been slightly improvised, Dragon. That great exchange of Ruffalo, like, no, he wants you to take a picture with him, and then Ant-Man's like, no, I can see the kid shaking his head. No, he doesn't want. Then Hulk just like, no, come on, just do it. It'll make him feel better.
I love this for a variety of reasons. One, I love all the stuff we do with Hulk here because, okay, on one thing, I could be crazier. I think the Hulk looks like kind of a compilation of the Russos. By the way, I think it's kind of funny. Seriously, if you like, he looks. Here's the thing: he has the hair, and he looks like the one that you saw during the meeting. He looks like, I believe
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
Joe Russo, but he also, with the glasses, he looks a little bit like Anthony Russo. He looks kind of a combination of the Russos. But what I love more so is I love the Hulk is kind of this pseudo celebrity in a diner. He hangs out in the diner all day, and he's eating these giant portions of food. And people come over to him for selfies and everything. He's love that he's just like kind of this laid back scientist now, and that I love that there is kind of a price of kind of the Professor Hulk experiment here, where again he's kind of a middle ground, and that's kind of how we get the smart Hulk that we got in Infinity in the comics sometimes. And I love the middle ground that. Here's the thing. It's mainly Bruce Banner. It is Bruce Banner, but by the same token, the price of that middle ground is that he's a little like he doesn't know all the terminology for all the he doesn't know all the jargon like Tony Stark does. Like I'm not saying he got dumber, but he's not as kind of fastidious or kind of like direct and to the point as Bruce Banner once was. He's kind of in the middle. He's just kind of the laid back quality comes from the Hulk, but the scientist comes from Bruce Banner. And with that too, by the way, the really cool thing with the big payoff for me with Incredible Hulk is that. Again, way back when people say, like, well, yeah, we kind of retconned the whole Bruce Banner and the Hulk being two different people. I've always argued since day one, this kind of confirmed it, that, way back when Bruce Banner Bruce Banner had that scene with Betty Ross where he said, it's like me, but I have like acid being poured to my brain. And I'm like super angry when I become the Hulk, but deep down it's me. And that's kind of what we have here. Again, they're middle ground. It's like, it's back to being, they're the same person again. I think that's really cool. That's a good resolution for his arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. I'm sorry, do you have anything else on the...
No, I have stuff to say about him like as we go on, but I don't want to blow through all his highlights entirely out front.
Of course. And also that I wonder if it's a meta thing too, because to me, like I guess my little head games, I remember they did that commercial with like the mini Cokes that we really liked. With the Hulk and Ant-Man. I wonder if maybe that's why they had that gag. And they're like, you know what, the big guy and the little guy just have this, just have like a fame stature to him, where it was like the Hulk's again all this bravado, and it's like the humble celebrity. Like, hey, you want a picture? But he's like, okay, the kid doesn't want a picture, so don't put me in this position, Hulk.
Dab.
Oh god. All right. Okay. So all right, so let's talk about Thor.
Oh man, this was a great scene. I love the music as we go into New Asgard. It makes total sense. I love the atmosphere. It's like this coastal, like it looks like a New England town or something.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. Oh, real quick too, Don Martin says Hulk dabbing. I can't get that image out of my mind. But God. Okay, but no.
How half-heartedly he does it too. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do this because the kids like it. Dab.
Now I could be crazy, but I'm back to Thor here. I could be crazy, but I'm pretty sure that that we're in Norway, and this is a really neat little payoff of the
Yeah.
Remember, Odin took him to Norway, where like the original the Asgardians technically kind of hail from. So I like the Thor. The ideas like Thor's kind of built where his father kind of took him in Thor Ragnarok. That's kind of nice.
Makes sense. So of course we get a quick check-in with Valkyrie, and then we get probably the biggest, like, we didn't know if we were gonna get these guys or not. Korg and Meek.
Yeah, it was so great to see Korg and Meek. You know how much I love, like Korg and Meek from Planet Hulk. So it's just I was so glad to see. I love how Meek's again, even though he's lost the robotic limbs, I love how Meek's just kind of chilling. He still has like multiple arms to eat pizza with. It's just kind of funny. But beyond that too, I love our pairing here. We have the Hulk and Rocket, who both have a dynamic with the Hulk from Ragnarok and from Infinity War, and I love that they have like this indie movie travel to New Asgard. I love this.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it feels like a Wes Anderson movie or something.
The Hulk just walking barefoot, and he's giving Ant-Man tacos. I don't know. It's just really nice. But the scene would bring a tear to Deadpool's eye, but we don't. Anyway. Yeah, so
right. My favorite bit with Korg is when Korg asked Thor to deal with the troll on Fortnite, and Thor's just like, "It's the god of thunder here. If you don't log off, I will fly down there and blah 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 blah." And then like he gives like this big elaborate threat, and then hands the headset back to Korg, and Korg just gives the most adorable like, "Thank you, Thor."
God bless Taika Waititi.
Thank you, Thor.
Going the revolution, says Donovan Martin. The Korg lines. Yeah, so let's
You
see.
don't actually say that name here, mate.
Yes, so speaking of that, so again, so Thor, let's just say Thor is a wee bit out of shape.
Yeah, a little bit. This
Okay,
is probably the most controversial part of the movie. I kind of warmed to it on a rewatch. My first watch, I really like. I thought it was a funny gag at first. I just was kind of confused how it was going on the whole movie. And honestly, Dragon, rewatching, I'm kind of like, I kind of have respect for them for sticking to their guns about it and having it through the whole movie.
yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of what I was feeling the first time around. Like, okay, they're sticking with this. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it because of that. You know, it's Thor. I love that. Basically, I love that Thor. You know, he's without purpose. We put in perspective again, kind of the grand Thor arc for all these movies. Thor's always been kind of a guy, you know, looking for his purpose. He's always been kind of like, you're going to be the king of Asgard. And of course, Thor Ragnarok, we took that away from him. And Thor, progressively through each of these movies, but especially Ragnarok onwards, and we had that beautiful bit in Infinity War I can't get over with Thor, where it's like that. He tells Rocket to move at 1,500 years old, and I've lost everyone I care about. Like that's a great. That I love how that shaped Thor, and it kind of takes into a bit of a funny because how much again you have a prolific moment like that. Like how much further down can you bring the guy? Again, the guy's responsible in part for the snap because he didn't go for the head. How much more sad can we get so we can make him a little more uplifting? Again, it's sad. It's sad in regards to you know, like Thor. He's without purpose. He's lost everything. He blames himself, and he was too late to kill the bad guy. And well, the response to that trauma, and this is what I love. I love it is coming from a place of tragedy, but again, has as a comedy, again, kind of indicative of Thor Ragnarok. There is tragedy in that film, but there's also a lot of comedy, kind of like, again, laughing in the face of tragedy with Thor in regard, where Thor, you know, he's on Earth in more in a way that more than he's been in the first Thor movie. Even like he's without purpose. With you know, because in the first Thor movie, you know, he's there, but he knows he's the god of thunder. He knows he needs to get back home. The point is like he was like an average. You know, he's a god amongst average Joes, but now he's an average Joe who happens to be a god. That's what we're doing with him now. So again, it's like he's just he's now is more human than he's ever been before. He's just one human with a really crazy past. Again, I think the Big Lebowski thing's kind of funny too. It's just I don't know why. It's just really fun. Like when he re-enters the picture, he's just wearing the sunglasses. Like, okay, they're definitely going full Lebowski here, and even Tony Stark's bringing it up. That's kind of funny, you know.
Yeah.
All right. That's the thing, like you know, he got the last, and basically, if anyone has a problem with my response to them would be, look, guys, he got the last, you know, we did a lot of stuff with Thor in the last movie. What more do you want? I think his story is
I mean,
somewhat.
that's kind of the thing, Dragon, is that I feel like the last movie, Thor got the emotional arc, and this is kind of like, this is going more back to like Ragnarok Thor, where it's like the stand-up comedian version of Thor. But by the same point, the reason why he's acting like this does come from a place of genuine human emotion. So it makes more sense. Like, it actually makes more sense here why Thor would be like kind of trying to be overly jokey to cover up his tragedy than it was in Ragnarok. Whereas Ragnarok, frankly, as much as I love Ragnarok as a movie, you will admit, like that Thor in Ragnarok, it kind of felt like a different Thor than we've seen before in the MCU, almost inexplicably.
I mean, look, I understand a lot of people are really. Some people are divided on Thor Ragnarok. I'm not one of them, but I do say it is different. But I still feel this is pulling from. I still think it's pulling from Thor. Basically, it's an evolution of Thor. I don't really think it's. I think it is coming from somewhere. But I see your point, though. I do.
Oh,
Anyway, so with that, so the point is like Thor yet again is kind of in that Ragnarok space where you either love it or you don't. And I think a lot of people love it, but again, some people are just really hung
I
up on
think
it.
a lot of people do love it. I think the Big Lebowski thing, maybe. I think, yeah, hard to put this into words. I think maybe what might put people off of the Big Lebowski thing is that it's such a focused joke. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, ha ha ha, he looks and acts like the dude. And I don't know, Dragon, is someone who finds the Big Lebowski to be like obnoxiously overrated. I didn't really find any of those references all that funny, but that's just me and my personal weird biases.
Right. Again, Tiki, you would love. Do you remember? Remind me, how far did you ever get in Preacher? You never got past the first season, right?
No, not really.
I bring that up because there's this hilarious running gag about the Big Lebowski being overrated. That's why I bring that up.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, I've always had that opinion that the Big Lebowski's overrated.
You would love to again. Tiki,
You know what? I'll take Burn After Reading over the Big Lebowski. Burn
that's
After
like
is a seriously, like, that's a criminally underrated Coen Brothers movie.
Because the idea is like Cassidy the vampire in Preacher is always like, I hate the Big Lebowski, and everyone's like, how can you hate the Big Lebowski?
It's just obnoxious and full of itself, and it thinks it's way more clever than it actually is.
And that's the thing; it's Cassidy's opinion. That's the gag. It just keeps going. Anyway,
all right. Now, after we lost half our audience with my big Lebowski dislike.
Anyway, so Donovan echoes that physically Thor is damaged and broken, and mentally still kind of wrestling with the positives and negatives. Again, kind of a guy who, again, like, yeah, I do reference again the Infinity War scene where, again, he's like in the face of utter tragedy. Like, again, we bring Thor down to the lowest level in regards to, like, we put him into a really dark place, but again, he's still finding a little bit of levity and a little bit of humor, even though, again, he's masking a lot of tragedy with that. That's what I argue. Again, he's just kind of doubling down the comedy because things are that dire with him. And of course, Dion kind of respects the Russos for that. Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of something to respect them for. They stuck to their guns. I don't know. Anyway, it's a fun fact though. Kevin Smith was actually able to see the Endgame with the Avengers because he was invited by Chris Hemsworth to the premiere, so he gave him the cast and crew screening.
Nice.
Fun fact. I think it's because he helped shape Thor Ragnarok, because Kevin Smith was kind of like the one. Chris Hemsworth in an interview said he credited Kevin Smith to the reason Thor Ragnarok was so radically different than the other two Thor movies. Anyway, so so moving on from, again, kind of like the ha-has of Thor, let's talk about Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye is a very interesting status quo shift for sure. My one nitpick with him is that I feel like he goes through this dramatic change in his character over 5 years, and then by the end of the movie, it's just kind of like they just kind of like glance over the fact that he's like kind of a serial killer now.
What? Well, how so?
Well, the fact that he just gets back together with his family and, like, there's no repercussions for him doing what he's been doing for the past 5 years.
Well, I'd argue this, Tiki, and I'd argue this based on they revealed a big detail about the Hawkeye show, which is really, I think, really helpful in kind of facilitating where they're going with them. And I would say I don't think it's going to be necessarily the point. I think there's going to be a consequence for, I don't know, like sorry, let me rephrase that. Let me put it this way. I feel we're not going to sweep that under the rug with the Hawkeye show they got coming out on Disney Plus. I feel it's going to be I don't know how dark they're going to go with it, with the fact that, like, he's killed a lot of people, but he's definitely retiring the Hawkeye identity after what he's done as Ronin here, after what he's done kind of in this dark. And they don't call him Ronin, by the way. I'm convinced because of the whole we have Ronin in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm convinced that's the reason they didn't call him Ronin.
Yeah, I like War Machine's whole line about, like, at this point, I don't even know if we should find him.
Exactly. So yeah, but I love the motivation for this, by the way. Again, it's almost kind of a vague Punisher motivation, but fueled by not the death of his family, but more so the death of his family by proxy of the snap. It's kind of a snap fueled mission. Where
he's basically treating himself as like the Thanos for the people that truly deserve it.
Exactly, he's killing the bad people left from the dusting who were kind of spared instead of his families. I think that's a really fascinating kind of motivation for where Hawkeye's going.
Yeah, it's also kind of like I could totally see like a serial killer character on The Leftovers in this vein.
Yeah, and that thing, we kind of had that somewhat with that one, with the guy shooting the dogs. But
right, yeah.
We vaguely had that with that guy. But anyway.
The Leftovers is such a gloriously weird show.
Anyway, my point is, I like to, again, of course, the whole Ronin idea. Again, that's kind of like we had that. Even like Captain America was technically Nomad in Infinity War, but we don't give him these labels. But that's kind of who they are in those movies. The point being, like Hawkeye, the idea of him being Ronin, or becoming this Ronin-like character, is that he's a hero without a cause, like a samurai without a master. Get it? So he's he's gone into a dark place. What's really great with this choice is that it's a darkness that kind of correlates with Black Widow's red on her ledger. Now Clinton Barton has tons and tons of red on his ledger since the loss of his family. That, again, we're not sweeping under the rug because of that 5-year thing, which, again, I think it's more of a wait and see, but you're right. In the movie, I think it's a very minor thing, but we'll see where it's a kind of a wait and see. I'll say that.
I mean, in the movie, it was just kind of like I understand why they didn't do it. Like, I understand why he didn't reunite with his family, and he's like, oh my God, I've done horrible things. I understand why they didn't go there in the moment, you know what I mean? But like you said, it is something that it'd be interesting. It would be an interesting format for the Hawkeye show is if it was like split between two narratives. Like, we have a narrative of him trying to adjust to life after Endgame, trying to get back with his family and everything, kind of rebuild his home life with shades of his past coming back to haunt him, shades of Ronin coming back to haunt him. Meanwhile, every episode we get flashbacks of his Ronin days.
That would be interesting. I think it's an interesting idea. But get remember, the crux of the Hawkeye show is that he's gonna be passing the torch to the other Hawkeyes from the comics. That's gonna be the crux of the Hawkeye show. But I think your thing could still happen though. Like I think
why are these freaking Disney Plus shows like? Why do we come up with better ideas for them than they actually are?
I would like to meet you in the middle of that because that's a really good idea. I'd like to say that I think the actions of Ronin might create some bad guys for the new Hawkeye to go up against. That's what I'd like to think. Anyway, so moving on from that point, we have a correlation between Black Widow. They're now kind of in the same boat, and of course, this feeds into the general redemption arc for Black Widow. She's always trying to patch up the red in her ledger, and we see her do something really big later on that kind of feeds into that. So again, by connection to Hawkeye, because again, she lost her family a little bit with the Barton family. She's always had that, and of course, she's lost the major family with the Avengers. So she's lost a lot as well. Okay. So, speaking of all this kind of talk of the Avengers as family, Mommy and Daddy get back together in the form of Captain America and Tony Stark. So, this is a scene we've been waiting for a while here. Of course, it's been a while since Civil War.
It was kind of spoiled in the trailers, which, by the way, after that was spoiled in the trailers, I stopped watching the marketing altogether.
What was spoiled?
Yeah, the Cap Tony handshake.
I mean, come on, it was a little inevitable. You knew they were going to make
it. You know what? Because it's inevitable doesn't mean I want to see it play out.
I should be careful how we use inevitable, because apparently if you say inevitable, you're going to get your head chopped off.
I mean, Dragon, okay, well, whatever. Dragon, it was inevitable that all the people who got dusted were going to come back, right? But that doesn't mean we're showing all of them in the trailer.
That's a fair point. You're not wrong. Okay, anyway, the point being... Cap and Tony, these two old friends, they're moving. They're kind of making an olive branch here. Kind of the olive branch that they failed to do back in Civil War. They tried to do, and of course it failed. Of course, Tony's trying to do the armistice, trying to do the olive branch with the fancy pens and everything, and the old historical pens that kind of brought Cap into the war. And of course, that didn't go so well. And here. Again, after everything they've been through, again with the world at stake, and of course the chance to bring everybody back, they've kind of reached the middle ground. They're kind of moving forward, moving past things, and Cap again with the understanding that Cap will kind of protect Tony's dream that he's moved past. Again, without erasing the 5 years, that's kind of the agreement that they strike. Without erasing the 5 years Tony's in, he's going to help him, basically facilitate the time travel. Then, of course, the shield. Yes, they can say. Here's the thing. There's a bit of a nitpick, but it's okay. I have a way. There's a workaround for it. The fact that we mentioned in Spider-Man: Homecoming Cap's new shield. Tony had Cap's new shield, and I think what it means by new, it's not really new, but I think what it means by new is like he repaired the the claw marks on it. I think that's about it. So again, who cares? All right, the fact is he got the shield back. And what's even better is that the fact he kept like kids' toys on top of the shield, and this is like Morgan was gonna take it sledding.
Just I love all these like little domestic details about Tony Stark's life.
But seriously though, I love this as the end of Act 1 for the most part. Again, like the band's back together. We've moved past things. It's ending on a happy note for Act 1. That we kind of solved the issues of Civil War. We've repaired things are repaired, and we're going for the new. It's nice.
Sure, it's very satisfying for sure.
Okay, Act 2, Time Heist.
All right.
Okay, so I'll keep the semantics to a bare minimum. I really want to talk about like the technology and how it's done.
Okay.
So point being, so the Time Heist is something really cool. So one, we see the trial and error with the Hulk, which is hysterical. So we have Ant-Man. So of course, again, this is the one time that makes really Ant-Man and the Wasp technically one of the most important films of the MCU, because again, this gives us the time travel and undoes everything. So. We have the trial and error with the van, where we basically he moves time through the person instead of moving the person through time. We have like all these different iterations of him. It's a hilarious scene, and just the Hulk is just priceless, and it's just like time travel. It's just oh god, it's so funny.
I see this as an absolute win.
But again, like the idea is like at its core, we start off like and before Tony gets involved, we just have okay, we have the van, we have like kind of a control center where just things go wrong, and we see again the time thing. It's definitely a work in progress. On the flip side, Tony brings in kind of the Mark II of the time travel.
Dragon.
One,
So one of the biggest laughs in the movie for me was when Tony pulls up, rolls down the window, and he's like, "Huh? Did he turn into a baby?" And then Dragon, I love Chris Evans' like frustrated delivery here. He's like, "Among other things, yes."
yeah. I thought it's really funny. He's one of my Chris Evans time travel deliveries. I love.
Love how Chris was just at wits end. Like, yes, Tony, he did turn into a baby.
I love it when Cap and Hulk's banter during that scene. It's like, look, it's Scott. I say it's a baby. It's Scott as a baby.
He'll grow.
Oh, jeez. The only missed opportunity with the Hulk for me, and it's a very minor thing, is I wish we saw a little bit more, like maybe he tried dating Black Widow. I don't know. I wish we kind of like put the PS in there.
That was a plot point where it was kind of just like people didn't really dig it in Ultron, so we kind of just got rid of it a little bit.
I mean, they addressed it enough, so I respect it.
They addressed it in Infinity War, and yeah, like I feel like I said, I feel like because the Russos, like you said, have such a finger on the pulse of what the fans actually want to see. The Hulk and Black Widow stuff, not necessarily something they're dying to see resolved.
And again, they addressed it enough with the aftermath of stuff. So
not to mention, I think that the bigger MCU relationship with Black Widow is between her and Barton, and that definitely gets resolved.
That's absolutely. So you're right. Okay, so I love so of course this was something I wasn't necessarily worried about in the movie, but something that was like a little like I wonder. It made me wonder for a minute. I felt kind of stupid for wondering because Tony invents the GPS, which basically allows you to like not have time pass through, but allows you to pass through time. Basically, it creates Ant-Man suits. That's essentially what the gist is. People are wondering why do I have to wear this. It's like what is that's the idea. It's like it's kind of like an Ant-Man suit. It's like because you have to shrink, and of course if you shrink without a helmet on, you're gonna die. You need the regulator built in. There's the whole Ant-Man shtick that we established for all the Ant-Man movies. So that's kind of why you need the suits. The point is, I love how it works. And this thing I didn't put two and two together, and I feel kind of stupid about it. Is that we had him in the suits, and I was more like, I was just kind of again before we knew what this movie is really going to be. I was thinking like, okay, I hope the third act isn't them just wearing these suits. I mean, it won't kill the movie, obviously. Be like, I want to see them in their costumes, man. Right. But of course, the easy solution is like we do this awesome thing where okay, Tony Stark is so brilliant. You hit the device, which kind of houses the pin particle and the GPS. And you hit the device, and basically the suit forms around whatever you're wearing. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is, and beyond that, so we have the GPS and we have the sleeker time tunnel platforms. Basically, it's kind of the more improved version of the time tunnel van. That has this really cool kind of Star Trek platform they all stand on that takes them through time. And in general, the pseudoscience with the time travel, all I'll say is this, I won't get into like all the semantics, that look, the pseudoscience is solid enough. It's solid enough, it calls out
like the whole idea that like we don't really have to worry about the whole like changing the past stuff. I like how we kind of skirt around that. It makes and I like that basically the only thing that can be affected is stuff that they bring forward in time with them. Like they have to physically get the stones and bring them forward in time. Like Dragon, I can totally mean like to me, I can buy into that a lot more than just like, okay, let's go back in time to right before the snap and Thor can actually aim for the head this time. You know what I mean?
Right. I heard what you said, but I think you cut out a little bit there. Where it's basically, I know what you're getting at. You're getting at the whole, like, you remove the stone and basically put it back so we can circumvent all the problems. We're not just like going back to specifically the moment.
Well, I'm saying we're not just exploring old time travel territory of like, oh no, they're gonna run into their past self and it's gonna create a paradox. Wacky.
Yeah, and that's what I like. One, we did this really great bill where it's against the Russos being really smart here, where it's like, well, I guess the writers being really smart here. We're basically addressing all the time travel movies, basically saying to the audience, guys, look, okay, just don't get bogged down with it. And we basically called out the movies where again, like we're not going to do any of that stuff. We're going to do our own thing here. And again, whether it's kind of saying, well, whether it tracks 100% or not, we listed all these other great movies that don't quite track as well. That's kind of the meta acknowledgement of like, guys, nothing's perfect.
I feel like the Back to the Future method of time travel works better for like a whole movie to be hinged on. But I feel like this method of time travel works better, like in the context of this movie, where it's it's supposed to be just a plot device, less so than like the actual movie. You know what I mean?
Right, and look, the way I look at basically the workaround I have, and again, it's pretty much what it is. It's just like in case anyone has any problems, I think it just fits into what it is. Honestly, is that it's something I guess it's like kind of the fractured, it's kind of the fractured alternate timeline logic, and what that means is basically the best way I can describe it is like think of like 1985. In Back to the Future 2, remember the Biff in charge 1980
Yeah.
alternate 19. Basically, it kind of works like the idea that we see visually demonstrated in the doc in with the ancient one is that so basically you remove a stone, you create an alternate you create an alternate timeline, and basically the idea is like whenever you going back, you create an alternate timeline, and it doesn't matter so long as you put the stones back. That's all you need to know is the fact that we're just creating a bunch of fractured alternate timelines, and so long as you return the stones, everything will be fine. That's all you need to know. That's pretty much what the movie works with. And the only tricky thing is that when we bring people from the past to the present, that's the only tricky part of it. But
Yeah,
again,
that's the only part where I'm like a little bit kind of like needing to get my spreadsheet out for that kind of stuff. But we'll get in there with
and
the
that's
first.
what I'm saying. Look, what I'm saying, just to keep it simple, is that I just apply the same thing. Where again, it's a fracture thing. So long as it gets fixed, everything's fine. So that's the idea. Basically, you're pulling something from an alternate timeline, so it gets so long as you set things right in the original timeline, it'll be fine. You can basically keep what you brought out of the thing. It's kind of the way I'd look at it. Just like, avoid headaches. That's the way I would look at it. I advise people to look at it. But you're right. That's the only thing where things start to get really tricky. Anyway, so beyond all the time travel semantics aside, now we got through all that. The time I love planning the heist though. That's one of my favorite things in terms of of course, again, definitely feeds
Like,
a lot
okay,
of
we've got 6 stones. They're in 3 different timelines. We need to break up into the teams. It's a very Ocean's 11 type dynamic we've got going on here.
And again, this really makes Ant-Man an important player because again, one, he's suggesting a time heist, which of course is so Ant-Man to do with the heist element of it all, and of course the planning session. This is where I think the Big Lebowski comes into play best, where you just have Thor in the corner.
Yeah, he's just like dazed off, like, is he awake? I think he's dead.
That's the thing. I mean, it's
that like big speech about the stone that he's familiar with, and then afterwards, like Iron Man's like, "All right, good job, buddy. You want some eggs?" And Thor's just like, "I would like a Bloody Mary."
so it's oh god, it's funny. But I love him just getting all sad and maudlin. Where he's just basically he recaps Thor: The Dark World.
Thor's like barely able to function as a competent member of this team.
But I love that, like, Thor: The Dark World kind of makes him depressed and off focus, where he's just talking about, like, and there's Jade. And I love this. He calls it the fan. He calls it Tiki. He called that my personal
soliloquy about like lost love and, well, these things happen. And
But what I love about he called it my specific fan gripe with the Dark. I know there are a lot of legitimate gripes in Dark. It was like the little fan gripe, like, yeah, the ether was always kind of weird considering it was the reality. Jimmy calls that Captain America called it a stone. It's not a stone. It's like a jelly like ether thing.
Right, yeah.
Just what they call it. They didn't need to do that, but they did because it's like, oh yeah, we're dressed like all these stones have like a different form, and of course we have to draw it because it's a plot. Again, it's not for nothing because it is a plot point. Okay, it's in Jane's body right now. That's how we're gonna get out of there because it's not just the stone you take. It's interesting.
Oh God.
Anyway, so the point is, with all of this, with all the heist stuff, which is just great, we acknowledge that, of course, we get the puppy gag with Ant-Man and Rocket Raccoon, which just cracks me up to no end. Again, it's interesting how nice and lovable Paul Rudd is. And just like, hey, do you know what a spaceship is, puppy? I'll take you to space.
By the way, we get that great, we really skipped over this, but right at the very beginning, Dragon, of course, the football stuff with Tony and Nebula is kind of like a little lighthearted. But I think the big joke of this movie that kind of puts the audience into a sense of ease of like, okay, heavy stuff's going down, but it's okay to laugh, is Tony Stark's Build-A-Bear gag.
Oh, God, that is funny way earlier on, yeah. We didn't get a lot of that here, but we...
Right, like, that gag is totally like all right, guys, like, you can laugh. Don't worry about it. There's some serious shit going on, but this is still a Marvel movie.
I mean, Tony's, passing that because of dehydration, but I mean, still, like, you get a Build-A-Bear gag in there. Anyway, so speaking of which, so again, I love it, and figuring out like we have this great dawning realization. People fans have pointed this out, and again, I love we're covering it again. We're using the fans in the movie here. It's great. Where it's like you do realize there were three at least at one point in time there were three Infinity Stones in New York alone, which basically gives them okay the three times. Just we gotta keep our time just minimal. We only have so many pin particles. We got to break up into teams. And again, it's all pretty straightforward and pretty logical. We got and it all works really well. So that's, basically, let's break down kind of our teams here and kind of our missions. Of course, my favorite. I think you and I are sympathetic, and our favorite time jump is Avengers 2000.
Oh yeah, the 2012 one is where all the great fan services and everything. I feel like all the other ones are kind of just more character building moments for the most part.
Yeah, they're either character or gags.
But this one is just sheer like fan service awesomeness.
This is, so of course, basically, this is the most Back to the Future 2 of the whole film right here when we go to Avengers. So basically, we kind of have like a Back to the Future 2 like third act view of Avengers, where basically we're intersecting with the movie as it's playing it. That's kind of what we're doing with all of these, but especially
I love how like new Hulk is looking at the old Hulk and I don't know, like Rhodey saying something like, or I'm sorry, I forget who says something like, "Oh, don't worry, buddy, you're a lot better now." And Hulk's just like, "Well, I still think it's gratuitous, but whatever."
Cap's like saying, maybe smash a few things along the way, fine, but it's gratuitous.
Oh yeah, right. And then well, I think it's gratuitous.
It's just like a lackadaisical smash, like punches a cab a couple times. Okay, but seriously, this I couldn't get enough of this here because I love. I can imagine, like I've heard this criticism. I get this one, but it's the fact that some people who aren't crazy about the third act of Back to the Future 2 saying, why do I just want to watch the same movie again, or kind of complain about why we're just going back to
the same movie again. What you're watching is like the events that we're familiar with told and played out in a different perspective.
I know, and I've always been in disagreement.
Different results.
I know. I'm just saying I don't know why some people are always like, well, you mean Back to the Future 2 is a little inspired, just kind of going back to the first movie again. But like, come on, man, it was really.
That the third act of Back to the Future 2 is easily my least favorite of those three acts.
But again, really well shot and really inventive, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing here, but again, obviously a lot more. There's a little bit more going on here than there. So, but again, I love that we have kind of this mission of. I love the Avengers aftermath that's playing out because again, this is like logical stuff. Again, did we need an Avengers? No, but is it kind of cool and we kind of re-explore? Years later into the MCU, like, oh my god, these people were working for Shield. We didn't know stuff around this time. It's just a number of really good ideas and a confluence of just logical events, and it's Easter egg palooza in the best possible way. It's what it is. So we have before we get to Avengers Tower, let's talk about Hulk and the Ancient One. So we have
that was really cool, and I feel like that's also a good foreshadow to eventually splitting the Hulk and Banner into two different entities. I feel like that's a route we're going to go with the character soon.
That's sure. And again, like if they never did that, I'd be fine with what they did. But absolutely, we get a great tease at that with the astral form. Yeah. So basically, we bring back the Ancient One, which is again, basically this is where we start to get to the section where we're like, oh my god, everyone's coming back. Oh. Everyone, they got Tilda Swinton back, man, and. She's basically she tenses up when we learn like, oh my god, the one victory, the one outcome. This is what Stephen Strange gave us.
He's saying that Strange gave away the stone to Thanos.
Exactly, and then she puts two and two together. Like, oh man, he had a reason for this. Here you go, stone away, man. So then we get probably my favorite section. Well. Not my favorite section. One of the great sections in all this. We have the Tony Stark and an Ant-Man heist. So I love this. So Tony Stark and Scott Lang are complete diametric opposites of each other.
Oh yeah.
But Tony Stark, he's game for anything. Tony Stark, he wants to give it a try. He's obviously he's got an ego about him. And Ant-Man's all about the job, all about the heist. He's all about kind of like point A, point B. And we have so they're going for the Tesseract. So Hulk's got the Time Stone. Ant-Man, he's going for the Tesseract. He's going for the Space Stone. And we have Alexander Pierce. We have Robert Redford after his retirement, by the way, which is cool.
Yeah.
Alexander Pierce, and of course you know me, Tegan. There was so much Winter Soldier references in this sequence. I was like
Oh
losing
yeah,
my
oh yeah.
mind. I was geeking out so hard. Like basically in the first in Infinity War, there was the Red Skull moment where I geeked out. Like I had like a girlish shriek of giddiness with that.
Whereas this whole movie was kind of filled with moments like that.
Yes, yes, and I was losing my mind, man. I was. So as I love this. So again, I love that. So much great, all the great memories I had of Avengers, and I do love the original Avengers. There's just so much goodwill there, and there's so much just seeing him brought back and just seeing him playing those specific versions of themselves. I love the idea that we get some really great Thor and Tony banter, like past Tony and Thor is kind of going through the scene talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna get lunch again, talking about the shawarma.
I love that reference to shawarma.
Yeah, they're gonna get the shawarma, but what I love is that basically they got to give the past Tony kind of a minor cardiac event
Uh-huh.
to basically be a distraction, so you can get get the Tesseract in the case. Well, of course Loki's being hauled away, and we see him get the little Hannibal Lecter device uh, uh, on his face. All that stuff's going on there. It looks great. And I love, and this thing I wanted to see in the original Avengers movie way back when. They finally did it here, where Tony Stark, again, when his heart stopped in Avengers, and of course Hulk just screamed and he went back to life. When the arc reactor went out.
Yeah.
And it happens here, and Thor again. I was imagining that little lightning payoff from like earlier on, but 400% power, and Thor just like does it again. I'm going to try something. Gives a little tap, and he brings him back. And I just love how friendly and so.
Iron Man's just like, oh, that worked a charm.
But seriously, I just love how friendly Thor is in that scene, and it's
Oh,
calling back one of my favorite things, like the missed opportunity of Avengers. It's all great.
yep.
And of course, we'd be remiss. Hulk stairs.
Yeah, the stairs. I mean, Dragon. Like, I honestly think that might go down as the funniest moment in this movie.
Yes. Oh god. So
So many stairs.
I remember it was way back when they've always like Joss Whedon always talked about the Hulk is not at that point. Hulk's still not a character we can get like kind of walking around in the Avengers Tower quite yet. We can address that here like no, Hulk has to take the stairs. He can't can't get on the elevator with everybody.
Right. The elevator, it's like Tony Stark's like, hey, do you know what maximum occupancy means, buddy?
And I love it's like don't he hits the door because like come on man, don't hit the door because anyway. So the fact that the Hulk has to take the stairs,
he's like genuinely like trying to be simple, but by the same point, he's still like very, very, very childish and like a child in a temper tantrum. Like, oh, I hate these stairs.
But again, I don't mean to belabor the point, but again, I love the fact that this is the stuff that went on post Avengers. Like we're seeing like we're seeing the extended scenes of Avengers here. The Hulk had to take all the mundanity. I love it. We didn't need one iota of it, but it's so awesome. And it was like not saying we don't need it here. I'm saying if we were in the Avengers movie, we wouldn't need it at all. But anyway, so the Hulk's going down.
We really didn't need it here either. At least
no. I would argue we need. No, we do need it here because we need things to go wrong. So therefore, it's
that's
here.
true. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So
runs out, and then you're right.
Literally pulls a Biff from Back to the Future too. Remember, he knocks out Marty McFly with the door when he leaves, and that's kind of like heavy Tony. Of course, Donovan. We mentioned this one. Donovan's behalf here. Donovan loves the Tony Stark being the guy who calls a medic for Tony Stark. It's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
that is wonderful. But the point is like the point is like Tony Stark botches the whole thing as he gets hit like Marty McFly Back to the Future too, and the Cosmic Cube just flings out and Loki being the trickster god, of course, he takes the opportunity, grabs the Cosmic Cube, and he leaves. And there's just like a roar of laughter, like, oh my god, just they lost the cube and Loki has it, and oh god, it's just.
And I still think that would be an excellent setup for the Loki show, and they're probably not going to do that.
Well, I heard there's a chance they might have changed their mind. They might be doing that for the Loki show.
Oh, okay.
It depends when Loki's supposed to come out. If Loki has a couple of years to develop, then they might actually do that, Tiki. Bear in mind, they might have said the other thing for a smokescreen. We don't know.
I mean, of course, I'm getting to the point where it's like I have very, very like solid expectations for what I want all these shows to be like, and so that's a dangerous game to play because it's like, it's kind of like what are you expecting in your head versus like what the filmmakers are actually intending to give you. Very tricky game we play there with
all I know is my main interest lies in the Falcon Winter Soldier show. Everything else is just gravy. That's where the meat and potatoes are for me. That's where all the marbles account on that one.
Meat and potatoes for me are on Hawkeye.
I know. I'm sure that's going to be great. And that's the thing you and I have been thinking. I'm waiting for that on a Netflix show, and we're finally getting that. So that's great too. But again,
Don't get me wrong, Winter Soldier and Falcon are going to be great too. You know what my one issue with the Winter Soldier Falcon show is that I feel like the title literally being Falcon and Winter Soldier is just a little like it's not a very marketable title.
I think I'd love to think there's harkening back to like a buddy show where it's Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Well, I think more realistically, it's like kind of like a take on like Ant-Man and the Wasp. You know, they're kind of going like that kind of style of titling.
Right. Okay,
But
anyways,
I don't know. I just don't think it rolls off the tongue very well. But
I don't think you're wrong.
That's of course not indicative of the quality of the show at any rate.
Right, look, you're not wrong. But let's read.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of Winter Soldier and stuff. Okay, so all right. So we have
the elevator.
Yeah. Yes, but real quick, because so I can get out of the way here. So again, with Tony and Ant-Man, what I love about is I love that just later on we have a bit where it's basically Ant-Man's response to Tony botching the heist. I love because Ant-Man's such a pleasant, just likable character. I just love how pissed off Ant-Man is at Tony Stark for botching the heist. Like
Ant-Man is, of course, the most professional heist person in this team. You know, he's the guy who knows what he's doing, and so it's like it's great to see Ant-Man kind of like take a role of leadership out after being kind of like the butt of the jokes in all these movies for so long.
And you gotta remember, going back to Civil War, Tony Stark has no respect for Scott Lang. He says, "Who are you?" He just doesn't care. And
right.
I love that it comes back here. I love it's the next generation of Pym and Stark feud, because remember they had like a kind of a feud going on. I love the fact that it's the next generation of that. Is the fact that you said no to the time waste, then you wanted in on the time waste, then you wrecked the time waste. I just love this Ant-Man having this pleasant rant against Iron Man. Anyway, so speaking, getting back to so let's talk about, so this thing I was losing my mind at here. So Captain America in 2012 won my favorite suit on Captain America. Bear in mind, I love the one we got here in this movie. This movie might be my new favorite Captain America suit, but before that, classically, I love the Avengers suit on Captain America. I love it. So I love seeing it back and him being in it again. So, we have the Winter Soldier reunion moment here. So this, I was giddy as a schoolgirl watching this scene. I really was. So Cap's in an elevator, of course. Like I'm like,
it's great because you're like expecting like some big action scene. You're expecting like some big fight to break out.
Yep, and Donovan's with me. It's like, it's about to go down. And of course, we have this big subversion because, of course, I'm realizing, oh my God, when we have Rumlow, we have that little Weasley Sitwell's there. We brought him back. Sitwell's there, and even the name, the guy whose name I really don't know, but the kind of the guy who's in front of the elevator, the guy with the longish hair combed back, that guy, he's in there. It's like they literally mirrored the shot for shot in a smaller elevator. And just again, you think it's gonna be a big old action scene. Of course, I'm gonna need that scepter, and of course, the most brilliant thing is I know the meta thing about this. Chris Evans hates this thing like we all do. Everyone hates the whole Captain America being a Hydra agent. Everyone hated that, and we make fun of it here in a beautiful way that also complements the plot. It's where Cap just whispers to Sitwell, "Hail Hydra," just like Senator Stern did way back in Winter Soldier. And in saying that, he gets the thing, and basically avoid a whole fight just saying "Hail Hydra." They're all like dumbfounded by it, and again, he used like the infamous thing in Captain America in the comics, but also used the thing that could have confounded him so much in that beautiful movie. And just like Cap walks away with a smirk on his face, like, "Man, Winter Soldier did a number on me, but you know what? I got the last laugh." Oh God, it's so good. Cap got the scepter, which of course leads to a really, just one of the great moments. We have Cap versus Cap.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
What's so brilliant about this is that we saw Loki make fun of Captain America, and we basically established we had the cameo from Thor: The Dark World. And we bring it back here. The idea is that Loki makes fun of Captain America most out of all the Avengers, and he basically
I like that. That's like a reoccurring thing that Loki just does. Just mocks Chris Evans' Cap.
Yes, and by the way, whenever he does that, Tom Hiddleston does do an impression of Chris Evans when he does that.
Oh
With like
god.
this, they swoop him in there. Basically, it's like Chris Evans has to parrot it back so he can kind of do Loki. Anyway, so because of this, and of course Cap knows this. Past Cap, he knows this. He basically sees himself with the scepter, and he just realizes, oh, again, of course, this is without the mask too. Says, okay, it has to be Loki, just like the earlier scene here. So then we get this fight going on here, and it's a beautifully choreographed fight, and it's fighting your double, and of course they're very evenly matched. He says, I can do this all day. I know you can. Oh, good. So we have a really great, and again, I love that they're so evenly matched. Basically, they go over the railing, and man, it's like it's a nasty fall, man. They're falling down, no shield to land on.
It kind of reminds me of like the Captain America and the Captain America fight on the ship at the start of Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of like brutally, like, like hand to hand, like there's no real acrobatics involved or anything. It's just very close combat, like tight hand to hand combat. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's see. Bye to Don Draper in the comments here. Says he's got to go. So thanks for joining us for whatever time you had to join us, Don Draper. Okay. Anyway, getting back to the point here. Yes, I love that Cap's using the knowledge that he has from Winter Soldier to his advantage. I thought it was so great and so clever here, where he uses the thing that took him off his game. Basically, Cap uses his own kryptonite. Bucky is alive, and Cap's taken aback, and he's just like, oh god, he's got himself, and he uses the scepter to kind of knock him out, and using like touches the heart and everything. Then Tegan, we get the line. Tell him the line.
Oh, that's America's ass.
I just love it. Ant-Man being the ardent. Basically, Ant-Man's kind of me, essentially.
Ant-Man's kind of like Coulson in this movie.
He's got out of all the. I got to tell you, that is a missed opportunity. We didn't bring back. That's the thing that still bugs me: the fact that we never brought back Coulson or acknowledged the whole Coulson being alive thing. I know right now it's tricking on Agents of Shield. That's technically why they didn't do it, but still.
Oh God.
It's a mess on. It's not bad, but it's a mess on Agents of Shield with the whole why they can't cross over. But the point being, we didn't get any Coulson here, but he would have been dead in the Avengers timeline, so that's why he's not here. But you're right though. Yeah, Ant-Man is kind of the major kind of Cap supporter there, where it's like Tony Stark just kind of throwing a barb at him. Says, no, that's America's. Yeah, that's it. Anyways, all the story I go on all day about this Cap stuff. The point is, like, really strategic, really neat. Again, using the Bucky thing is really, I thought, was so clever, along with the Hail Hydra. It's all good stuff. Okay, so take us through Thor the Dark World.
Yeah, this is going to go by a lot quicker than the 2012.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
So basically, we get this whole sequence is kind of like Rocket Raccoon riffing on how stupid Thor the Dark World is to a certain extent. And, of course, Thor, he's just in total alcoholic mode. He's going out to the cellar to try and get more of the
wine, the Asgardian wine that his father
right.
The point is Thor is spiraling right now, and Rocket has to snap him.
And Thor is just like, he's just in totally just like this emotional like black hole, seeing his mother and knowing that it's going to be the day his mother dies and everything. Rocket kind of has to give him a pet talk.
Yeah, and of course, like, I lost my. Why don't you just you help me save my friends? Can we do that?
And then, of course, we see a shot of Natalie Portman standing up from a bed that I assume was a deleted scene from Thor: The Dark World.
You know what? I didn't think it. I hope you're right.
Dragon, it's literally just the only thing we see of Natalie Portman is her standing up from a bed.
Here's the thing: while I was watching the movie, I just thought, man, I think I whispered to a friend, man, they must have paid a king's ransom to get her in this movie.
No, I literally, they must have just. I would be shocked if they actually got Natalie Portman.
Well, here's the thing: she went to the premiere, so that made people speculate if she was going to.
I don't know. I mean, it's like, honestly, like, if they were to give her anything else, like, wouldn't they just like shoot some dialogue lines with her? You know what I mean?
She does have kind of a line in the background, which again could be like it's like a whole like "thank you for the clothesline." It's about it, so it's like it's like again. Anyway, the point being, Tiki, here's the thing: I love that there's kind of a meta, again, a little meta thing about Natalie Portman there. Like, at least the way I read it, that when Rocket goes to suck the hair, has to jab her with like a needle to get the ether. I love that it's like, she gets up and she leaves, and then we kind of, I guess, either inserted or just shot for the thing. Like Rocket then like kind of he's about to stab her with the needle. I just love that. It's kind of their acknowledgement. Yeah, Jane Foster, not a lot of happy memories there.
And then I got to admit, Dragon, surprisingly, Thor's conversation with his mother was really freaking well done. I loved that the mother knew he was from the future. Of course, one of the big laughs that Thor got was, he's trying to keep it together, and then he just breaks it. He's like, I'm totally from the future.
Yep, and I love that. Again, this kind of motivates Thor's arc here with his mother. Again, this conversation where she says, you failed, which makes you human, and that makes and basically says, don't be. Essentially, you don't have to be what people want you to be. You can be yourself. It takes the pressure off. So it's a sweet little pep talk.
Yeah.
And of course, then we get this beautiful transition. It was a really great bit. Where one, I love this. Again, it's a really cool moment. Again, the fact that it's kind of like the alternate timeline thing. Where again, everything's going to get changed. Everything's going to be set back to normal anyway, so we can mess with things essentially with the logic of this time travel. The point is, he grabs the hammer and he grabs the hammer, and it's a beautiful moment though. It's a really good acting from Chris Hemsworth. This is where we get kind of the pathos within the comedy. Which is, I'm still worthy, and we're playing "Come and Get Your Love." It's like it's a wonderful transition point, but also kind of underscores kind of the beauty of the moment. There, Thor's still worthy, and that means a lot to him. That's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of which, we get a Morag. We go to the planet in Guardians of the Galaxy. Which, by the way, in case anyone's curious, I don't think anyone is, but it's a really neat thing James Gunn came up with way back when. Is that Morag? You have to go to Morag specifically in 2014. Like they could have gone to way before Peter Quill got there, but the reason they can't do that is because Morag is an undersea planet that basically the water and the plates shift constantly. The only time it was like a perfect alignment was when Peter Quill was there, so that's why it has to be that moment. A little fun fact.
Also, one of the missed opportunities, Dragon. I'm sorry, but where was Jimon Hansu?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but again, it's the fact of the matter is, it would have, I would have been,
it would have been too much to ask for War Machine to take the stone, and then Jimon Hansu to show up and be like, "Who are you?" "I'm War Machine, man." Who?
I don't know.
You must have heard of me. I'm part of the Avengers. I mean, I'm not like a mainline Avenger, but I'm big. I was the Iron Patriot for a while.
Look, I think the reason they didn't go for it is that they might
more confused.
I think the point of it, I think the reason they didn't go with it because you would have like things like Peter Quill's unconscious on the ground. We'd have to acknowledge more things if we bring in Korath. I think that's why they didn't do it.
Right.
But yeah, look, you're right. I was expecting it, but in part of them we had the whole Nebula switch going on. But anyway, so with the
the whole thing, it's like obviously the reason why we do this is so that we can bring Thanos back into the story, of course. But more specifically, Dragon, goddamn, is this just not a perfect execution of a joke?
See, of course, again, this movie has all these Winter Soldier references and has my favorite part of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, as soon as we got here, I was so stoked for you. I was like, oh man, we're gonna get to see that Star-Lord dance from a different perspective, and I knew exactly what they were gonna do with it. I knew we were gonna see him like kind of singing along to it while the characters watched him. I didn't care that it was predictable because it was pulled off so well.
It was, and of course, War Machine's just very cowardly. So he's an idiot. Okay. Anyway, so
a shot of like Chris Pratt just gleefully sliding, and they just knock him out with that grin on his face.
War Machine knocks him out too, man. Really mercilessly hits him with like I think the Gatling. Hits him. Oh, remember he doesn't charge it, but he hits him with the little detachable club from. Oh man, it's really nasty. All right, so anyway, so Nebula, we have kind of our big kind of wrench in the time travel, in the time heist here, where basically Nebula, Nebula's interface goes wonky. Basically, obviously, you have two Nebulas.
It's almost kind of like the key to the conflict in this movie. You know what I mean? Like she's way more important than she's ever been in any of these movies.
Which I like that we didn't do necessarily exactly how Infinity Gauntlet goes with Nebula, but by the same token, Nebula does have a big role in the Infinity Gauntlet, and I think we reflect that here, and that's nice.
She's the one who kills Thanos, right?
well, again, the whole remember it's like we do a lot of snapping and stuff with the gauntlet. To the point is he kind of dies and comes back for a.
Oh, right,
You know
right.
what I mean? The
Couple
point
of
is like she steals the gauntlet and she gets the upper hand. I think she might have killed Thanos. I forget if she ultimately did. Like I think I'm pretty sure she was the one who actually killed Thanos, but I can't remember if like we brought him back like after that happened. I'm pretty sure like I know she killed him. I don't know if it took her or not.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so and we know he comes back as the farmer at the very end. That's how that story goes. The point anyway. So God, where was I? Oh yes, right. All right. So Nebula's interface is kind of we have two Nebulas in the same timeline. So now basically Thanos is the past Thanos, the pre a grateful sunset Thanos, pre farmer Thanos. He's made aware of the plan. We have Gamora who's like kind of ready to betray Thanos, but again like she's kind of her whole plan, like meeting of the Guardians there is kind of absurd right now. But
Yeah.
so basically, Thanos pulls a switch here. Basically, Thanos he learns about all the stuff. He learns what his fate is, and I love that he's gleefully willing to accept his fate and his destiny, even if he gets killed. Like he's willing to accept it, but he needs that snap to work. He wants his thing to work, and now he's realizing, oh my god, they're doing all the handiwork for me. They're getting all the Infinity Stones together. More, took me many movies to do that. They're doing it all in one. I can just swoop in, man. And what I love about this, I love what connects to the motivation of Thanos. See, some people have made the point that Thanos has like a different motivation than he had in Infinity War. I would disagree. I just think I think he's either evolved his plan, but I think it's still the same plan even with the past Thanos. Where Thanos essentially, what really ticks him off about this is the fact that I won and they're mad about it, so they're trying to undo my victory. And I think that's like to him dishonorable. I think that's why he's really kind of offended by it, and that's why he's really taking the proactive measures here. At least I like to think of it that way. All right. Anyway, so the point is like we kind of pull a switcheroo with Gamora. We pull a switcheroo with Nebulas here, and of course now we have like kind of the Trojan horse Nebula with like the headpiece that kind of disguises her. It's almost like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Toy Story 2, almost like kind of the switching of the buzzes. But Cap and Iron Man. Captain Iron Man, they have a problem. Obviously, they let the Tesseract slip through their fingers, and they need it. So they need to go to a different timeline. They're going to basically pull their Pym particles to go back in time and a place where they can get some more Pym particles, which coincidentally is the same place. They go to the 1970s.
Yeah, this is like the one place, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the one place that we don't actually see in a movie, right?
Yes, you're right. We've never been. Here's the thing: we've been in 1989, but we've not been in the 70s. So, so 1970s. Well, first off, 1970s, our big introduction to the 70s. Stan Lee can be the last one, and he's been de-aged to kind of that 70s era Stan Lee. And of course, we remember the 70s era Stan Lee with like the long hair and then the big sunglasses and everything, which kind of essentially took over the years. So that's kind of a big thing within his line is make love, not war. And I love that there's kind of a correlation between Cap and Iron Man there. There's a connect between the two of them. Of course, it's like they're both kind of fighting for peace. Again, they're on the army base. There's kind of the war profiteer of Iron Man. There's kind of the military thing of Captain America. Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Okay, hold on one sec. Man, dude, everyone's fucking...
Okay. So, let's see. What was I getting? Oh yeah. So we're using the same base as Armin Zola here. Basically, where Zola was kept. So again, we established this Winter Soldier. So we established the location, and we also established that, in the '89 is like when Hank Pym as Ant-Man kind of wrapped up. So the idea is in the '70s, Shield was kind of in full force in the '70s on that army base where Steve Rogers hailed from in New Jersey, I believe. Yeah, I think it was New Jersey. So they're in New Jersey. Right. So they're in New Jersey. And basically they're going to get the cube and get more Pym particles. We have like two missions here. We have like the mission where Cap's going for the more Pym particles. We have this great Pink Panther reference with Hank Pym as just like kind of 70s young Michael Douglas, even younger than we saw him before in Ant-Man. And we see the old Ant-Man helmet. A lot of great Easter eggs I don't want to spend too much time on, but Cap gets the Pym particles and we get this great this great moment where he's basically in Peggy Carr's office, and I love just the reveal of Peggy Carr's office. I think it's great, and of course, this kind of gets us a little bit of that. This film, in essence, is kind of the end of Agent Carter for all intents and purposes. It's kind of like the unofficial season 3 of Agent Carter, which really delighted both of us.
Yeah, definitely. I love seeing Jarvis again. That was like, correct me if I'm wrong, Dragon, but that's like the one time that we actually had a crossover into the TV universe, right?
Well, this is the most direct version we've had of it. I think basically they've had like really small breadcrumbs. It's the first major ones, the first major
like small breadcrumbs of like Agents of Shield stuff, and
that's what I'm talking. Like the fact like the device Nick Fury uses to get out of the jam and Winter Soldier is from Agents of Shield, like stuff like that. So like, that's really non essential.
Makes sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, we have James Darcy though.
Yeah, just not much to say about him. Just great to see him kind of like crossed over and in the MCU officially. Not just kind of on the TV side of things. Dragon, goddamn, I want an Agent Carter season 3.
But again, TK, this is the brilliant thing. This movie kind of is Agent Carter season 3, though, and that's the thing. It kind of like the fact that we're probably never going to get the Agent Carter season 3. This does kind of bring closure to it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on one sec. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so what I was getting at to let's see. Put a pin in the Jarvis stuff right now. We're getting back to Tony Stark building to the Jarvis stuff. So Tony, meanwhile, he has this thing where he gets the cosmic key, which of course was in Shield, and basically it's also kind of an answer to all the Captain Marvel controversy. Like, where was the Tesseract? Why is it in the cat? Simple answer, guys. It's Howard Stark. It was in Howard Stark's possession in the Shield base, and we see it now. And that's where it's been kept for many years, and that's where Tony Stark's pulling it from. And ipso facto, he runs into Howard Stark, played by the wonderful John Slattery. And every time I rewatch Mad Men, I love John Slattery scenes most of all. But oh my God! So of course we haven't seen John Slattery since Civil War, and before that we saw him way back in Iron Man 2. So again, it's really basically all of Tony Stark's dad issues are really connected to the John Slattery version of Howard Stark. So that's kind of what we have here, but grand payoff, and it's such a beautiful scene, man. It's and
what I like about it is that it's not like it's not overly saccharine, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I love you, Dad, thank you so much. It's more just two men relating to each other on a personal level.
It is. It's Tony getting closure to the issues he's had with his father, where basically it's like he's now a father himself with Morgan, and I love they're kind of he's just in such a place here where Tony Stark and he's basically about to be born. It's like the cherry's about to pop with the birth of Tony Stark here, and as Donovan's saying here, it's like one of the big connecting things is like a parent would do anything for their kid. And it's kind of touching Tony Stark. And what I love about it is there's this really great line here where he says, I used to think of my father one way, but now I'm thinking about the good more than I'm thinking of the bad. And he says, like, what would like what? All the money in the world never buy you a second time. And I think that's such a good line. And again, it's like will it change anything? Obviously not. But it's like there's the whole the way things work here. But it's a great little bit. And of course, he hugs him like, thank you for your, just kind of shrugs off and says, thanks for everything you've done for the country. And then we get Jarvis here. It's just like that guy's. I love that Tony's taken so off his game by Howard Stark. Like the one thing on earth that really take him off his game aside from Thanos is his father. And of course, he comes up with like Howard Potts as a pseudonym, and he almost forgets the cube. Mary forgets the suitcase because he's so taken aback by his father. It's like all of this is great. And then we get Jarvis again. So bring back to your Jarvis point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going to say more about Jarvis and Agent Carter.
No, not really. I just the only thing I have to say about Jarvis is that it's cool to see him. It's cool to see that crossover. I mean, he has like 2 lines. Don't really have that much to say about him.
All right. Well, Donovan, funny enough, Donovan said like he didn't know Jarvis was human, but yes, he was human. He's in this excellent series called Agent Carter.
Yeah, Donovan, seriously, check out Agent Carter, man. It's Dragon and I both agree. It's Dragon, having not seen most of the Marvel TV stuff, but knowing of most of the Marvel TV stuff, would you agree that Agent Carter is like above and beyond the best Marvel TV stuff that we've gotten?
Like taking the Netflix stuff off of the equation.
Taking the Netflix stuff out of it. Yeah, I'm saying like regular like Marvel Netflix, or I'm sorry, regular like network TV stuff.
Without a millisecond's hesitation, Agent Carter is the finest thing Marvel's done on television.
Yeah.
But yeah, so speaking of which, I mean, what's really cool about this is that Vision is not in this movie because again, Vision essentially is gonna dead for keeps until he gets, I mean, potentially gets rebuilt for his Disney Plus show. But again, that might not have, might be set in the past for all we know. But the point
Uh,
is, we don't get Vision in this movie, and I love that we get what we do. What we get instead is the roots of Vision with
yeah.
human Jarvis. That of course comes, the electronic Jarvis, which of course down the line
Well,
will
I love
become
that
Vision.
it's not even Paul Bettany. They could have cheapened out and gone Paul Bettany, but no, they go with like the OG Jarvis from the TV show.
Exactly, and it's just, it's perfect. They aged him up a little bit, but it's James freaking Darcy, man. All right. So the point is mission success. We got our stuff, and then we get to the where all the more we get to the real kind of meat and potatoes, the real pathos of the whole
I've been
movie.
hearing a lot of people say that this is their favorite scene in the movie.
I've heard that too.
I can't say I agree with it per se, but I will say it's like it's up there. It's in the top 5.
Like, I mean, like, here's the thing. If we're talking about in regards to the pathos of Act, basically Act 2 has a lot of pathos in it. Again, one with Cap and Peggy Carter and that little moment with like the behind the glass. But we, of course, majorly with Tony and Howard Stark. And then we get to kind of the grim pathos with
Which, by the
Bourne
way,
that goes on.
I love how on a rewatch I caught this. Like, up until they actually get to the Soulstone planet and realize what they have to do, Natasha and Clint are basically treating this as like, hey, we're two buddies going on a grand adventure together. Isn't this great? We're back together on the field again.
We've come so far since Budapest.
And Dragon, like, don't you agree that just gives such, like, especially on a rewatch, that gives so much more tragedy to this whole storyline, is that they're like super optimistic about it like the whole way through.
I didn't consider that element of it. You're absolutely correct. Here's what I got from it, Tiki. What I got from it, and here's the thing: while I was watching, just kind of, as after it unfolded, just kind of dawned on me how brilliant this was. Is that you're so wrapped up in what's going on. The movie's doing such a good job up to this point. I mean, it's still doing a good job up in this point. That it's a really, if you're dialed into things, this is kind of an obvious moment that we should know.
We have like a throwaway gag about like someone's gonna have to sacrifice themselves to get the Soul Stone, and then we have someone say "not it," right, to kind of like alleviate the tension of that.
Essentially, yeah, we do.
And then we just kind of, like you said, we just kind of forget about it because everything else is going on. We've got all this crazy timeline jumping. We've got the Avengers. We've got Thor: The Dark World being made relevant. We've got TV crossovers.
Well, no, Tiki. Here's the thing. I need to correct you on this because it's important. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. They know that Gamora was killed there. They don't know why. So that's the brilliant thing of the storytelling. Here's the fact that they need to go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, where Thanos happened to murder Gamora, but they don't know why he murdered Gamora. They just say,
You're right. Yeah, for sure.
And that's the story-wise, that's brilliant to me because one, there's a bit of it's kind of an obvious moment where one, we know that one of these guys is going to die, but and that's the thing, we still know. You kind of figure that as it goes on, but of course, in terms of who dies, because again, there's always been rumors of a Black Widow movie, and by the same token, the Hawkeye has like the confirmed TV show. So
Hawkeye has literally been slated to die since the first Avengers movie.
Well, not the first one, but
I've heard people saying like, well, if they need to kill off anyone in the first Avengers movie, Hawkeye would be the most expendable. I heard that before Avengers came out.
Okay, well, you take my point though, right? The fact that Hawkeye, he's going to get a TV show on Disney Plus, but again, the show's there's a little bit of wiggle room, but again, if you were logically, you think, okay, Hawkeye's going to survive, but then again, could be set in the past.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and because of that, again, you kind of go into the scene. You're either so dialed into things, or there's enough wiggle room that kind of it tricks you into not piecing together the obvious here. That, okay, Hawkeye is going to survive this, but what's so great about this is that we have the whatever it takes with Black Widow here. She's seeking redemption for her past, and basically these two friends, these two bosom buddies here, they're like Hawkeye, he continues the Black Widow cycle with the red in his ledger in the wake of his family's like, there's nothing left. If I come back to my family, I don't know if there's going to be anything to come back to. Just take care of my family. Do that for me. And he goes for the rescue. And basically, rarely, if you've ever seen this, like kind of the battle for the self-sacrifice.
Yes, I love this. They're literally fighting each other to kill each other.
And I love that, Hawkeye, who again always gets here's the thing, he kind of gets the shaft by the fans' perspective, and then Hawkeye, I think people really love Hawkeye, but the problem is he always gets overshadowed by the main people in the movie. It's not his fault. It's like,
I mean, Ultron was definitely Hawkeye's moment in the sun.
that's it. Like, again, Hawkeye, again, he's a great character. It's just, a lot of times he gets a little overshadowed. And basically, whenever we dedicate time to Hawkeye, people
The
say,
city is floating. There's an army of giant robots, and I've got a bow and arrow. I have no idea what's going on.
and that's the unfortunate thing, is that even when we give Hawkeye mode, people say, did we really need that mode? Like, come on, what do you want? And what I'm saying is that I love that. Sorry, I'm just trying to. I love that we give Hawkeye his due, that he basically goes through exactly what Thanos went through in Infinity. In Infinity War, where we put him in the same position where when you get the Soul Stone, he's in the water and everything. But again, it's like a trailer. He's beating the water. He's not fulfilled. It's like it's kind of like we take the most shafted guy and we put him in the shoes of Thanos. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so Black Widow dies, and folks, well, I mean, going forward, she ain't coming back. But again, if they do something in the past, who knows? But the point being, Black Widow, she's dead. Dead is a disco, I'm afraid.
God.
So again, and we've added more trauma to Clint Barton. Like now, he's lost, one of his best friends, the unofficial member of the family. He's lost the only other family that he has. He's lost Natasha, and then we get the aftermath of everybody realizing she's not coming back, and Thor's like, "Come on, guys, we'll just bring her back with the snap, man. We can with the snap."
I love how pissed Hawkeye gets about this. He's just like, "No, you dumbass! It doesn't work that way."
Why don't you grab your hammer from your happy little excursion into the past?
Right.
And you then, go.
I love the bit with Hulk just throwing the bench into the lake.
Yeah, and again, that's a good acknowledgement of the relationship. And later on, we have a line too where he says, he tried to bring her back, but of course, it's a no go. And again, it makes sense. It's a no go. It's kind of the whole like we can't bring Gamora back because again, she sacrificed for the Soul Stone. In this case, we sacrificed Black Widow for the Soul Stone. It's a no go. Let me read this from Donovan here. I loved how more tragic it was, but when Black Widow died, besides Clint, she basically was. Sorry, there's a lot of typos here. I think written as Red Sparrow with no humanity, no choices, and no freedom. So she's atoning for her past. I think it's better than she's kind of like Red Sparrow, but a lot better. I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah.
Anyway, also welcome to Jacob in the comments there.
Jacob Weil?
Yes, Jacob Weil.
Oh, hey, Jacob Weil. How you doing?
All right. Yes. Okay. Anyway, so the aftermath. The point is, it's definitely a grim thing with kind of our original members now down to 5, and it's a somber scene. Yeah. Okay, that brings again. That's kind of the downer ending of Act 2.
All right, Dragon. I'm going to stop you right there. Just to kind of put into perspective, we have an hour.
Yeah.
And I know we have an hour's worth of movie to talk about, but the problem with that is that it might literally be the most epic hour of movie in the history of filmmaking.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, do you want to because once we get past that hour, man, I'm not really going to be able to talk.
I think we should go for it.
You think we should go for it? Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, if we go for it and we get past that hour, like once we hit 11:30 my time, I'm really going to be pretty out of commission. But
right. Let's do it.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay, so let's see. So we begin Act 3. Act 3. Oh, by the way, Jacob says he's fine. By the way.
Nice.
All right. So Act 3 begins. We have kind of like the Hulk snap, if you will. We have they craft a new Infinity Gauntlet. Iron Man, he crafts it out of kind of the Stark tech, and he puts the stones in there and everything. And basically, they're kind of I love the desperation of Thor here. Thor, especially after this Black Widow revelation, he wants to do something good. I love how desperate he is to do something right, do something good. And they're telling him, no, Thor, you can't use the Infinity Gauntlet. It's going to kill you. Because again, we saw you need to be of like kind of a Thanos durability, of a Thanos strength to really wield the gauntlet and survive. Mm-hmm. Even have a chance of surviving. And I love the logic here that Hulk's the only one who can do it. Where Thanos, you have to again. The closest thing to Thanos they have would be the Hulk, who again got his butt handed to him by Thanos in the last movie. But again, he was the only one of kind of a Thanos caliber to use this gauntlet. And I love that one. It's kind of redemption for both the Hulk and Banner against Thanos. Again, from that defeat in the first movie, but also they've lost, like Banner's lost, they lost Natasha, which again might have some romantic stakes there too. Like he's lost like one of the other connections that he had. So again, it's kind of an all or nothing. Well, I got really nothing left. And again, he has this really beautiful line about, maybe these Infinity Stones do have a little bit of gamma radiation to them. We knew this ever since the first Avengers movie. The Tesseract has gamma radiation on it. So maybe I was made for this sort of thing. Again, it's might as well maybe I was made to be the Hulk to do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So again, Hulk goes for the redemption for the Infinity War right here, where he goes for the snap, and this thing could have killed the Hulk, man. Because it's like even we see with the Hulk here, he puts on the gauntlet, it's like the energy's radiating through like
I
actual
really
radiation.
hope we get the messed up damage on his arm as like a permanent new layer of the continuity.
I mean, I think there's a chance of it. I think there's a shot at it.
A little messed up too on one side.
I think it'll, at the very least, they might fix the face, but I think the arm will take, if anything.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, there'll be scars, I'm sure. Anyways, the point being, this could have Hulk has a healing factor though, so it's a little dicey. But again, it's Infinity, it's Infinity Stone, so I think it'll leave a mark. So he gives the snap and he saves everybody, and within an inch of his life, he saves her. And we have this optimistic bit with Ant-Man, then Hawkeye. Hawkeye's getting the call from his family, but then of course, like this little moment of optimism. Thanos attacks, big surprise attack. Thanos destroys the base. Like,
yeah, I love that. I love that. Like literally, like right as soon as it's like okay, like Hawkeye, like he gets the call. It's like also I love the touch of we see all the birds outside the window. That's a great kind of poetic moment. But then, yeah, Dragon, it's like the shit hits the fan like so immediately that it's just such a great like. All right, we ain't got time for this shit, man. Like we've got stuff that we need to wrap up. We ain't got time to celebrate a victory here. You know what I mean?
Yep. So basically, the base again, like the whole Avengers, the new fancy Avengers upstate base gets atomized, and I love that everybody's kind of spread
just completely obliterated in like half a second.
I love this the other chaos here. I love that again, like for all the marketing, it's like, man, I wonder where this third act's going to take place. If we're thinking in space or something, right? But of course, no, it's just that dire a circumstance, right? Like smog and dust and everything.
I feel like the third act kind of like it literally just kind of takes place in the middle of a field, right?
I mean, again, it's upstate New York. It's kind of a nice surrounding grassy area. So yeah, it kind of is. So I love these destroys the whole base. They're all separated. Like so, a lot of them are under rubble. Like like Rhodey's Rhodey's in a very precarious situation. His legs aren't working right now.
Oh.
We have like Rocket. Rocket like almost gets killed, and the Hulk again, while injured and half dead. The
Hulk is kind of like pulling a Spider-Man right now.
He is, and all of this, and basically all of their fates are in Ant-Man's hands, just kind of rushing to the scene to save their butts. And then Hawkeye's being chased by the Outriders, who are really scary from Infinity War, even scarier in a confined space in the red lighting of like the sub basement of the place.
This was a great thing for Hawkeye to do, was to kind of be the guy who's like keeping the gauntlet away from everyone. Exactly. Like it makes sense with his skill set. He's probably one of the most agile of the Avengers. You know what I mean? And he's one of the more acrobatic of the Avengers as well. So I don't know, Dragon. That's the thing. It's like with this action set piece, with this gigantic Lord of the Rings action set piece, like I'd be remiss to think of anyone who shows up who doesn't at least get a moment.
Absolutely. So then we have what I like to call Cap's last stand here, where we basically our three guys. I love that our three main players, our three headlining franchisees, if you will. They
it's
go
like,
up
sorry, Hulk, yours was technically a Universal picture, and you didn't have the same actor in that movie, so we're not counting you.
Yeah, no franchise for the Hulk. Sad.
We had the one movie, but it didn't really work out. Sorry, buddy.
Anyways,
Hulk mad about mediocre film career.
Hulk want renegotiation. Anyway, so in all seriousness, though, so again, our three guys here, basically, it's a three-way fight between our headliners and Thanos. So again, Thanos, without the gauntlet, is actually kind of a fair fight, fairer than it was with the Infinity Gauntlet. So again, they have a shot now. They actually have a shot. So they're bad.
Epic, man.
It is, and of course, Thanos has this really big honking weapon. It's an unearthly metal that is like the toughest thing. Only like the strongest guy can wield. It's not an end all be all weapon, but it's darn tough.
Uh-huh.
And we have a moment here that, oh my god. It's so basically everyone's seemingly down for the count. Thor's about to get killed by Thanos in a very ironic way. And then, big moment here. So again, Thor was like charging out with Stormbreaker and the hammer. And of course, he's taken out of the equation, almost killed by his own Stormbreaker here because you don't need to be worthy to wield Stormbreaker. Then we have a moment here. Iron Man's knocked out. There's only Captain America is the only other
This
guy.
might be like the biggest applause moment in all of the MCU.
In my opinion, way better than the Rey lightsaber moment from Force Awakens. That's a good moment, though. It's a good moment. I'm saying it's that good. It trumps that.
Oh, it's way better than that moment. Way better than that moment.
So, again, for me,
you know why it's better than that moment? Because instead of 2 hours worth of build up, we have 20 movies worth of build up.
Absolutely. So we have a beautiful moment here where Cap, basically Thanos is hit by Mjolnir out of left field, and we're like, who the heck? Like, Vision's gone. Who did this? And of course, like in the back, like, fans who've seen Age of Ultron, especially people who know this, like, I'm thinking, yes, tell me they're doing it. Yes, please, please. And we reveal Cap with wielding Mjolnir, which means Cap is worthy. He was always worthy. He's got the willpower and he's got the worthiness on his side. Oh my goodness, Cap's worth, and he is basically Cap is our physical match. Cap is now the physical match to the ultimate bully. In that, I don't like bullies. That whole thing. He's going up against things. This is where we really get the whole Cap kind of facing the ultimate space bully, as it were, with Thanos. And man, he's not giving up. He keeps getting back up.
I mean, I love the choreography here. I love how he'll throw the shield and then he'll throw the hammer into the shield
and create the little the move from the first Avengers movie where just the big gong effect. And again, Cap, I just love how unrelenting he is in the fight. He just keeps charging at him. He's just charging at him, keeps getting back up, and he's still all of that, and he's still not good enough. I mean, it's still not enough, though. I mean, he's putting up a heck of a fight, but then Thanos returns that in kind, and with that giant, helicopter blade looking, people just call it a helicopter blade. Of course, Thanos copter. Ooh, and no, anyway, no, seriously, he's using this giant blade, and he's just beating the crap out of Cap's shield, and he breaks the shield.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, literally. In the end, the one again with the whole Cap lifting the hammer thing is a great payoff with the fact that Cap budged it and kind of confirms the fan theory. And Thor knew this. It's like Cap was being polite. He could have lifted the hammer.
Yeah, right.
It's either that or post Civil War became more the either or works. But let's just face it, he was being polite. Yeah. Anyway, so the shield breaks, which again is kind of Tony's. Donovan's foaming at the mouth for me to bring this up, so I'll bring it up here. Is that so? One, we do a lot of self-fulfilling prophecies here. But the prophecy from Ultron is that is that we saw the cracked shield and kind of Thanos kind of defeating the Avengers. So
oh yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, Dragon. Like this, like even more so than Thor Ragnarok, which did some good service to Ultron. Like this definitely makes Ultron a way more relevant movie than it looked like it was back when it first released.
And Donovan points out that basically for what's about to happen here, Loki said the sun would shine on us again, and I believe during the final battle, the sun, basically, I think I can't remember this because I was so enthralled with the action. I mean, if he's right, I think this is awesome. That again, the sun is shining during the battle. It's coming, kind of more of a sunrise is coming out of the clouds, and I guess
I'm pretty sure it's like a daybreak. A daybreak happens.
But that's the idea. So basically, it's kind of Loki's prophecy to his brother coming true too. So that's kind of nice. Anyway, so getting to that moment itself. So then the big most again, basically, this is what I'm talking about. The Act 3 is all about like things. It's the big battles Act 3 and things getting better and better and better during the action.
Well, like I said, Act 3 is basically like Marvel just turns into Lord of the Rings, and it's glorious.
So I love this with Thanos, by the way. So I love that Thanos, again, he's just getting really menacing here. Again, the most menacing we've seen Thanos here. Again, like Thanos Infinity War has a nice thing to say about everybody here, but this Thanos is really ticked off. And again, I still say it's the same Thanos. What I love here is that he still holds the same plan, but he's reevaluated this plan. That he basically is improving his whole, I'm going to half the universe. I'm going to snap half the universe out of existence plan. But he's going to
oh, man, this is scary shit right here, man.
But I love this. I love it. It's still Thanos, again, like classic Marvel, and he's still seeing himself as a hero here with this move. And again, he's not necessarily wrong, but it's really menacing, though, because he has a line of...
Yeah, right. He's like, well, they wouldn't know it. They wouldn't know that they were born in blood.
That's the thing. He basically says, I have my plan, but I've now realized because of your actions here, my plan did have a flaw in it, which I'm going to fix when I get the gauntlet. I'm going to make it so they don't know the suffering in the first place.
Mhm.
So basically, you saw, okay, people move on. It's like, apparently you, again, the whole Cap's whole philosophy is most people move on, but not us, is what Thanos is challenging right now. Most people move on. Well, I'm going to make it so they, and what he's kind of saying here is like Thanos is Thanos wants to be the unsung hero, basically rendering the Avengers irrelevant. So again, it's all the cards are on the table here, man.
Of course,
So
that's
then,
also kind of a thematic callback to Ultron as well.
yes, all of you saying it's all me, yeah. And Cap, and this is from Infinity Gauntlet. It's a big bit. Again, this is what maybe I'm on the edge of my seat here. I would hope a
Right.
lot. Maybe you and everybody else here on the edge of my seat, wondering, "Oh God, is this the moment? Is Cap going to die here?" Where Cap in Infinity Gauntlet, this is where Cap died in the book. Where of course he was brought back, with a snap, but essentially, but he was killed. Like he was beaten. He was killed by Thanos hand to hand here. Where Cap stands alone against Thanos. Everybody else is gone. He's walking up to Thanos, and again with that frame, it's like, oh, guy's just gonna walk up to Thanos like he did in the book. He's gonna get killed. Like, oh God. So walks up to him with a broken shield, and he's just so determined. And of course, we have the silence. Like all the sound drops away, and we hear like Cap, on your left.
Sam. It's Sam on your left.
Yes. Oh God, I almost had tears in my eyes. Like, oh my God, it's Falcon. And it's saying on your left, of all things, on your left and to his left.
Yeah, I knew how much that would get to you.
A portal forms. And of course, this gets basically it's a battle of the audience cheers. I've never had this in the theater. There's been cheering in theaters, like again, like Ray from Force Awakens. I got to cheer, but I'm talking this, man. This is like applause. I instinctually, I didn't even control myself. I don't know why. So
like I said, Dragon, at this point, like once the movie enters this apex, especially in that second viewing in the giant screen theater, like it was such an awesome fan community experience because everyone was like looking around at each other, like I'm sure there were friends in the theater, but like I'm sure there were strangers just being like, oh my God, this is just so fucking cool.
I'm still like the hammer moment instinctually. I'm clapping till my hands hurt, and then of course we get to this, and it's like, okay, I just keep doing. It's like an instinct. Everybody's that sense of community and wonder. It just keeps building upon. So Black Panther, Shuri, and I believe Okoye, they re-enter the frame, followed by Falcon. Then of course, that's one portal. Then of course we reveal a whole lot of other portals.
Oh yeah.
And this is something I didn't know about until Donovan brought this up. So T, you can vouch if you saw this or not. But apparently. So pretty much everyone shows up here. I mean, we have with armies too. Like Wong shows up with all the other sorcerers.
Wong shows up with the other sorcerers. Of course, Okoye shows up with the Dora Milaje.
And then the Wakandan army. So it's like they're completely backed up there. They got like a whole slew. Even the Ravagers are there. The Ravagers are there. A few spaceship. I guess the spaceships withhold the Ravagers. And we have this thing I didn't catch, and maybe you did. Howard the Duck was with the Ravagers.
No, I did not catch that.
According to Donovan, Howard the Duck was there and during the battle. I didn't see it because I'm so wrapped up in basically what follows.
You know me, Dragon. If I would have seen Howard the Duck, I would have taken note of it. But no, it must have been just a quick shot, like a freeze frame shot, probably.
So even more than the hammer bit, even more than that, I'm on the edge of my seat. And they have to do it here. Another Age of Ultron.
Right.
Another Age of Ultron payoff. They have to do it right here. So again, we have this the most comic. I'm going to argue this
epic splash page ever.
I'm going to argue this out of over 10 years in the MCU. I think this is the most comic book moment in the entire cinema.
Yeah, easily, no question.
Everyone back.
Because what's great about this is like this works exactly how comic books work. Where it's like with comic books, it's like they kind of assume that you already know who everyone is. When other characters show up, you don't have to have a big exposition about oh, this is this person and this is why they're involved in the story. You know what I mean? It's like, no, at this point it's like, okay, just seeing the images of these characters, just seeing them all there together. It's like, we know what's up. We don't need any exposition. We know exactly how epic this is. That's exactly how much of a comic book moment it is.
We got this
pure visual flair.
We see the splash page line up and Cap, the hammer goes in the Cap's hand, of course. And by the way, so also the score. On the whole, by the way, I think I love the score for this more than Infinity War. The Infinity War score is good.
Yeah, Donovan has been going crazy about the score over Twitter, and I can't say I blame him.
And he's right, because I mean, here's the thing. For me, Infinity War is a good score, but it's not exactly. It's kind of like, here's the thing. It's somewhat like the case of Civil War. With Civil War, Infinity War is better score wise than Civil War, but the thing they both have in common is they're not exactly revisitable. I mean, they're good and they work for the movie. They complement the movie perfectly. It's not exactly like Winter Soldier. I will revisit the score from Winter Soldier like crazy because I think it's a great theme. They have great themes. You look at the original Avengers score. That's a great one. I could listen to the whole CD of that. And I feel Sylvester recaptured the magic for this movie because we have a lot of permutations of the Avengers theme. But again, this track, by the way, is called Portals. You can guess why.
Mm.
So Portals, though, Portals is where it's at, man. Portals is that's the one. Anyway, so all this score is going to basically the most epic, drawn out version of the Avengers theme, like again multiplied for all the portals. And then of course, like hammer goes in the Cap's hand, and like there's a pause, there's a breath. Avengers, assemble, and oh god, and then they charge.
Dragon, at that point, aren't you happy that they waited?
Yes, I'm very happy.
I mean, it's like, could you imagine how deflated that would have been if he said it in the first Avengers movie?
I mean,
like that to me is just like that is just. It almost blows my mind how much restraint Disney and Feige and everyone had crafting that one singular moment, it's like we've been waiting so long to hear Cap utter those two words, and they did it, and they did it in the absolute perfect place. And it's just, God,
let me tell you why
the landing so well.
I'll tell you why that's so important, though, especially for Cap, of all people. Cap's big claim to fame. Again, I've told this about like for years. Again, like the MCU made me fall in love with Captain America. But again, the main thing I knew Captain America for, the main thing everybody knows, the American, kind of mom apple pie of it all, Captain America. The big claim to fame that he has, really, that anybody, even if you don't know the character, like a lot of people, like myself, the thing you knew him from is he's the guy. He's the guy who calls Avengers Assemble. That's his role. That's his big claim to fame. We finally do it. Anyway, so of course with this giant lineup, or even you have Giant Man, we got everything you wanted more. Giant Man shows up with the Hulk in hand and everything. It's like, oh god, it's like, how does it? And of course they're facing down against the Leviathan, basically the biggest army ever. It's like all the Chitauri, the Outriders, even big Hulk-like Outriders, like the Children of Thanos. Like the odds could not be more stacked against Cap. Like all of this was facing Cap down, and he was going to face it alone. But then everybody shows up to back him up. Like yes. So then the battle commences. Let's just hit the highlights of the battle here. So we have overall we have the relay race going on here. It's basically getting the gauntlet to the van.
Which that was a really smart decision to write that into the battle because it gave a lot of people highlight moments. Dragon, honestly, like the wet dream, like I can't believe I am watching this in a movie moment for me. It's very simple. But just the image of Spider-Man riding a Pegasus.
I love how earnest he is and like, oh hello, I'm Spider-Man. Who are you? It's like he's just making those pleasantries of that. Oh hi, I'm Senior Rem.
I mean, there is just so much going on here. I don't even know where to start.
I'm gonna raise you that even better. He hitches a ride on Mjolnir first, like Cap's. Oh my god, it's so brilliant! Remember, he's just like Spider-Man is being overrun after he goes into the instant kill mode, which finally came into play in a useful place. Like, he says, like, I could use a little help here. Hey, Queens, like the whole Queens in Brooklyn, baby, dude, Cap and Spider-Man, they got a moment. Throw him the hammer and he hitched the ride. Then he hitched the ride from that to the Pegasus. Anyway, okay, let's see. So some other highlights. Speaking of Spider-Man, the hug. We got to talk about the hug.
Of course. I mean, it's like, what is there to say? Everyone knew this would be an emotional moment, and it was. And of course, rewatching it back, knowing what's going to happen in about 5 minutes, it makes it all the more devastating.
Just in the midst of all this action, we have some really glorious moments of pathos and payoff all throughout this movie. It's like Iron Man is like, he sees the kid again, just like, and of course we confirmed that they all remember being snapped away and everything. So it was like they were in a dream or something. That's about it. But they again the big payoff is that he hasn't remember he was going for the hug back in Homecoming. He finally got a hug from Tony Stark. It's like even a little payoff to that. So So then, of course, we have Gamora and Star-Lord, which to me, after everything Star-Lord
Oh
went,
God.
he got Gamora. One, it's so uplifting. He got
That
Gamora
might have
back.
been like the most superfluous moment in the final fight, but it's still fun.
Yeah, I mean, like you did need to acknowledge the whole Gamora's back thing.
Right,
Like,
right.
so, Star-Lord and Gamora, they're reunited, and you got Gamora back. But of course, it's a little tricky because it's not exactly his Gamora, but she's been filled in somewhat.
And then
It's like,
Gamora's just like, really? Him?
it was him or the tree.
Either him or a talking tree.
Oh God. But,
Speaking of
it's
the talking tree, I got to admit that Groot is probably one of the very few where I don't really remember. Like, I remember one moment where Rocket kind of saves Groot, but
yeah,
other
that's
than
about it.
that, he doesn't really get anything to do.
He's got that, and he's got one line later on. That's all we get.
Uh-huh.
But again, we got a lot of stuff.
But we do have some awesome, like, just singular moments with these characters. Like, we have one moment where Drax just jumps on the back of a monster and just starts stabbing him over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
We have this one really awesome shot I love of Bucky just very much, being very focused and firing his rifle into the chaos. And stuff like that. Stuff like that is just exactly what makes this so memorable. You know what I mean? It's like everywhere through this battle is cool shit going down. It's cool, like next level, like I can't believe I'm seeing this in a comic book movie type shit.
But then you have Scarlet Witch, and of course Scarlet Witch is she's always Tiki. Scarlet Witch is always going to have a big fan following because she's famously one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel comics, and that's the thing. Scarlet Witch is always, and we have the emotional.
I got to admit, I was a little bit more on board with Scarlet. Scarlet Witch is one of those characters where every movie she's in, I'm a little bit more on board with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, going back to Age of Ultron, I thought she was kind of obnoxious just because I didn't really like the twins storyline in general in Age of Ultron. Civil War, I thought she was handled a lot better, but she was still kind of just a plot device in Civil War. And then Infinity War, we finally give her a lot of emotion. And then Dragon, this moment right here, this whole like, you took everything from me.
And this is just the taste of what you can. Again, this is the taste of what you can do. But again, we back
I don't
it with
even know you. You will. Dragon, that is like the best fucking that is the best Scarlet Witch moment in the MCU right there. The you will.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And of course, the Scarlet Witch is always like, there's always people saying like, hey, she should be way more powerful than she is. But still, this is pretty powerful. In the MCU so far, it's the strongest thing we've ever seen her do. And it's really cool here. Where again, the idea is like, she had Thanos, man. But before Thanos called down all the fire, like he was a goner because of Scarlet Witch. Yeah. So it's like I love when she's lost everything. We're kind of calling like again, this is calling back to her when she killed Ultron, like when she was this angry, when Ultron killed her brother.
And I got to admit, Dragon, seeing her like this, it's like the Scarlet Witch and Vision show is probably still the Netflix show I'm least interested in, but this definitely gets me a little bit more hyped for it.
And they have a beautiful relationship, and that's definitely some. Again, it's not going to be the A show, but it's going to be definitely a good show. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she just again she has Thanos corners, she's ripping him to pieces there, and of course just like open fire. I just love how desperate Thanos looks on us, like moving his head around, like just do it. Again, Scarlet Witch, awesome, and again like poor Vision's not coming back, so she's really upset and peeved about that. But then we get kind of the women of Marvel coming to Spider-Man's rescue, and I love this. And one, I love they're kind of defending Spider-Man of all characters, but then we have this again the one to me the big so again as the ships are opening fire, Captain Marvel graces us with her presence, and she destroys the ship, and she kind of comes in there to help save, again emphasis on help save the old. Everyone's kind of happy she doesn't do it single-handedly, and I'd agree with that. But again, like the whole like, hello, Peter Parker. That's a nice moment with her for a change. Okay, she's being all friendly.
Hey there, Peter Parker.
You have something for me?
Yeah.
Just being kind of the
that's the type of Captain Marvel shit I want in the if that's the Captain Marvel we're gonna get in the MCU going forward, then I'm fine with it. But I just don't want this shitty Captain Marvel of like, oh, I'm way better than you, and I'm obviously way stronger than you guys, and there's problems out there that you guys can't even comprehend. Like, I don't want that Captain
Basically,
Marvel.
it's like don't
I'm
don't.
fucking done with that Captain Marvel.
Basically, it's like don't just have Thor. You know, I emphasize it's fine as is, but they don't just have this. Don't just have Thor tell us that we like her. Like, show me,
Exactly.
like show us that we
Dragon,
like her.
there is some Poochie shit going on with Captain Marvel. Have you watched the Red Letter Media review of this movie?
You mean the half in the bag thing?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, specifically the point that they made about like Captain Marvel and Poochie that I just cracked the fuck up at because it's so true. I'm sorry, I know we're backtracking a little here, but the whole like, Poochie has to go back to his home planet.
Right.
It's so true, Dragon. Captain Marvel is totally the Poochie of the MCU.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll change anyway.
You need to watch that episode of The Simpsons.
I've seen that episode of The Simpsons.
Oh, you have? Okay, good. I was going to say, I think you'd really appreciate that particular episode.
A little fuzzy on the specifics, but I do remember that one. Yeah. Anyway, so the point is, after the Hello Peter Parker, we do have this great kind of money shot of, I love that kind of in the wake of Black Widow, we do see all the other women of the MCU come together here. Seeing we have by the way, we have that cute bit with the Wasp when she says Cap, and it's like as she made fun of Scott for all through Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the point is we have all the women of Marvel. It's a really cool money shot. Valkyrie, Captain Marvel, the whole bunch. It's just the Okoye. It's neat. Anyways, they can basically have this convoy getting the gauntlet from point A to point B, and of course, the Captain Marvel versus Thanos. They're going toe to toe with. She almost breaks Thanos' fingers, but then Thanos pulls that Power Stone move. But then the point is we take Captain Marvel out of the equation, so Tony Stark can come in with the save here. Tony Stark, of course, we have this bit here throughout all this. You're into the big meat and potatoes of it all here, folks. Okay, so Doctor Strange, Tony's asking, okay, that one reality where we win out of like the 14 million, is this it? If I tell you, it won't happen. Of course, implying Doctor Strange knows how this movie's going to end. And we have this bit, and I love that things are so desperate right now with Thanos just about to snap his fingers once he gets that stone in there. I love that Tony looks to Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange, I read it, you can tell me if you read it, something else. He holds up one finger. I think it means like, this is the one. Do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I took the one finger as for sure.
So Captain Marvel's taken out, and at the last second, Tony grabs the gauntlet, and he grabs the gauntlet, and he's thrown back, and of course, then Thanos goes for the snap, and we just hear the clank of metal, and we reveal all the stones are gone, and we reveal Tony basically, again, using the nanotech arm, he's reformed it into kind of a makeshift glove, and then, of course, he has the perfect final words, the most perfect final words. It's just, after Thanos is like, I am inevitable. Of course, last time he said it, he got his head chopped off.
Iron Man.
Snap and boom, and of course we have everyone, all of our bad guys turn to dust. All of our bad, and Thanos saved best for last. And just as I wish. Part of me wondered, how do you feel about Thanos not having a last line?
What do you mean?
I mean, just kind of disappears, doesn't say anything.
Oh, I thought it was fine because he doesn't have a last line, but you see everything you need to know on his face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. I was just wondering what you felt about it. Yeah,
it's like he's just kind of like I love that ending for him because you don't really need you understand what he's going through. Like he has literally seen his entire plan, his entire existence crumbling around him, and the whole inevitable thing. It's like he's just kind of like. I don't know, maybe if you put in a line like Thanos sitting down and being like, this is inevitable or something like that. But honestly, that would have made the moment cheesy, Dragon.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like I feel like having him not say anything rescued the moment from any sort of potential cheese.
Right. Well, let me tell you this. I want to address, because this really ticks me off about people look, I'm not saying people can't take shots of the movie again. People can feel the way they're going to feel about this. There's something that just really feels ridiculous to me. I want to address. There's a stupid nitpick you'll keep making about this scene after about the I Am Iron Man. They're saying Iron Man, yes, it's a great scene, but and it's like Tiki, I'm all for semantics. There's a point of no return with semantics. All right. See, you have semantics, and then you have things just kind of you're looking for issues. You're looking for things that ruin the hardware. I'm not going to say who said this, but
I could point out a bunch of shit. Like Red Letter Media pointed out, like Thanos snaps his fingers in Africa, and yet in America the dusting happens in the daytime, just like in Africa.
Yeah, but that's inconsequential. It doesn't matter. What I'm talking about,
I'm just saying, look, this movie is a movie where it's like There's plot holes galore in this movie. I'm not even gonna like beat around the bush and pretend there's not. The difference between this movie and say like The Dark Knight Rises or something like that is that this movie just fucking nails it and just like hits it out of the park so much that the plot holes are just like you just accept them, man. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like you're just kind of like along for the ride at this point. Like it's like the ultimate we don't care movie, Dragon. This is the ultimate we don't care movie.
Sure. Anyway, so the point being, like people are saying, like, well, as we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy, you can't touch the Power Stone. You can't even touch the Power Stone unless you put in like a fancy object. Like again,
well, you know what? So basically, what you're saying is like, how did Tony physically transfer the stones?
Which I think is the dumbest thing I've ever.
Look, it's not like a major nitpick for me. It doesn't ruin the moment or anything, but I will admit that I did have that question.
Look, let me put it to you this way. Right? Here's my answer to anyone who says that. It's not a malice. It's not one with malice. It's a very simple thing. All right, look.
I mean, like I said, I'm not nitpicking it, but it is something I was wondering about. So,
my point is this: where it's that guys, Hulk snaps his fingers. We saw the damage that did. Iron Man snaps his fingers, and as we are about to get into, he dies. I mean, that to me fills in the blanks there. Okay,
the great thing about it is that like Iron Man doesn't even really get any last words per se.
That's the thing. I mean, Iron Man is his last word. And that's
yeah, right. I mean, it's like he's still technically alive after the snap.
Yeah, but he can't speak.
Just for Pepper to say that we won,
Yeah.
But he's like incapacitated, like he's on his way out,
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, guys, split the difference. All right, he would have. Basically, you're saying he would have died anyway, just touching the thing. Well, again, he dies anyway. What are you griping about? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my response to anybody. Like, that's an example of semantics where I think it's a step too far. Like, come on, guys. Anyway, so point being, we have the haunting, silent last moments. A little bit all the pivotal the pivotal bonds that he forged come up to one by one. We have Rhodey, who's probably the oldest Bond. And we have Spider-Man. Then we, of course, have the most intimate bond with Pepper Potts telling him that. Basically, she says, you can rest now, Tony. You can re-one. You can rest now with it.
Beautiful.
You know what's really beautiful about it, though? I don't know if this... I know how much you love this movie, so I assume this occurred to you. Is that it's a callback to Iron Man 3. Tony can't sleep because he was thinking of...
Yes. I definitely caught that.
And the idea is like he's conquered his fear. He can go to rest now.
Uh-huh.
And of course, beyond that, you want to look at his. I love that Tony Stark, and the whole thing of what Tony Stark is all the way back in Iron Man 1. He didn't use a weapon to stop things. He didn't use Stormbreaker. He didn't use like a unibeam or anything. He used what essentially, again, and I love this the kind of the visual symbolism of this here. He used his armor. Again, his nanotech armors would save the day. He used the armor that he built all because of way back in Iron Man 1. It's evolved in the most technologically superior place it's ever going to be. With the nanotech, he used that to save the day. The armor, again, armor, not a weapon, to defeat the bad guys, to save the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And then we get to the epilogue. So of course we get to not the ending, but we have a bunch of epilogue points. So anyway, we get the funeral.
Yeah, the funeral, of course. I mean, it's like Dragon. It's not everyone, but it might as well be everyone.
I mean, like Tiki. Essentially, who are you thinking it left off?
I mean, like Howard the Duck's probably not there. For example.
Come on, he doesn't even know Howard.
I know. I'm just saying it's not every single living MCU character that we've ever seen, but it's pretty damn close.
All the ones that he's either met. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure everyone
he's met. It's definitely all the ones that he's interacted with or met or had an impact on, for sure.
Sure. And basically, it's the people he's interacting, maybe in their families too. It's about the most stretch that you get there. Anyway, but we have this. Some people speculate. I disagree with this guy. I think they're all physically there, but some people say they might have been added in later. I mean, come on, let's just say they're all there.
I mean, if they are added in later, I don't really see the problem.
Yeah, it's fine, but I like to think this is
effects are at a point now where we can't really tell the difference with that kind of stuff anyways.
That's a fair point. What I'm saying is I love that it seems like a beautiful wonder is what I'm saying. It's just where you see them all there.
Oh, yeah.
And at the very least, it's an illusion of a wonder if it's not a wonder. We're basically...
Dragon, of course, we do... correct me if I'm wrong, but we do hold on Ty Simpkins, right?
We see him there, yeah. He's
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
the third to last. Well, here's what we do. See, again, I love the arrangement here. It's just a perfectly arranged shot here. We
Uh-huh.
start from again, kind of what we did with his death here. We have the intimacy where we have Pepper Potts God and I'm blanking on the daughter's name right now. Morgan, right? Because the crazy uncle, right? Because Pepper's crazy uncle. Okay, Morgan. So we have Pepper and Morgan, and we go to Rhodey, and then Peter Parker and Aunt May, and then we keep going. We go further back, and of course we hit. We have basically we keep going back, and basically towards the further back we go, the furthest we go. We see Ty Simpkins, who of course was Harley from Iron Man 3, and then beyond that we have Ross and Maria Hill, of course, one who worked for Tony Stark, one who was at loggerheads with Tony Stark. If you want to be technical, one who again he met way back in Incredible Hulk. So again, we're going further and further back.
That's true. That's true.
Then you go beyond that, and you see Captain Marvel, who of course is our transitioning point. Again, the one who knew him least is kind of way in back, but then we kind of have again she saved him though. Then we have the transition point to again the man who started all with Nick Fury. You're part of it. And again, basically with Tegan, I'm going to send old schmaltzy and maudlin here. But
dude, by all means, this is a fucking schmaltzy moment. It's, if there's any time for schmaltz on the podcast, it is this movie.
I think it's so beautifully poetic that we end on Fury, and the idea is that Tony Stark with the Infinity Stones, he literally became in the sense here in the funeral and in the literal sense with the death itself. He became part of a bigger world, just like Nick Fury promised you. You're going to become part of a bigger world, and we see that in the sense of like literally kind of becoming one with like the Big Bang and kind of like the cosmic energy as the Infinity Gauntlet, and with all the friends that he made in life, all because of that promise. Nick Fury, you're going to meet the Avengers, you're going to meet all these other people. Again, they're all the
okay. You're throwing a lot of stuff out here, and I want to respond to a lot of it. So,
sure. Sorry, go on.
No, okay. Well, first of all, before I respond to what you were saying, I want to just throw out there like the most funny and awkward theater experience I had watching this movie a second time. So, the funeral scene, I'm not sure if it's before or after they pan through the crowd. We get that shot of the arc reactor with proof that Tony Stark has a heart.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon, I don't know why. I don't know why. But that moment, for some reason, got a huge laugh out of my audience.
It's funny on this. I think it was the second viewing. On the second viewing, I heard people crying during Tony's funeral.
Well, no, I mean that's what you should be doing, Dragon. You shouldn't be laughing at it. And the funny thing is, I brought it up with Man-Eating Wreath, and he said, like, yeah, they were laughing during that moment with me too. And we both agreed, like, it was probably like nervous laughter, kind of like laughter, like, all right, like we need to have like some sort of tension.
Well, I mean, I had like a heartfelt chuckle at it, like, oh man, it's
right. But I'm talking this was like a full this wasn't a heartfelt chuckle, Dragon. This was like a full theater belly laugh, like It was bizarre, man.
Yeah, it does sound.
To me, the thing I took it as, like, I'm sure this isn't what the audience meant by it, but, like, in my own little headcanon, the audience was laughing at, like, the absurd idea that Tony Stark had a heart. Like, it pans to, like, proof that Tony Stark had a heart, and then people are like, oh, Tony didn't have a heart? That's absurd.
I think that's kind of weird. I don't buy that.
Well, I don't buy it either. Like I said, it's my own little weird.
Oh, sure.
But anyways, what you were saying about the legacy and everything, and the part of the bigger world, Dragon, I fucking love the hologram messages. And the point in this movie that made me the most teary-eyed, that literally got me to cry.
I know what this is.
Was when Tony, Tony's going on in his kind of eulogy to himself about how, it's like, wow, I mean, it's like 10 years ago, you have like these fighting robots and stuff, but would you ever imagine like these cosmic forces of good and evil? And you know what I mean, Dragon?
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful moment of like acknowledging the thesis of the MCU, starting in this small kind of real world place with pseudoscience and just eventually building it into a universe larger than any of us could have possibly imagined.
Oh yeah, and of course the "I Love You" 3000 payoff.
Yeah.
Okay,
and Dragon, I've heard a theory, and I really wouldn't be shocked about this. I mean, I think we need to keep I think we need to go at least a couple movies where the status quo is, pretty much kept the same. But I really wouldn't be shocked at all if Tony just straight up came back as an AI suit or something.
Well, now you bring that up. I mean, wow, that would be. I didn't think of that, man.
I mean,
Yeah,
I really like I said, they need to have him dead for a couple years just so the death can have some impact. But I fully believe this isn't the last we're seeing of Robert Downey Jr. in these movies.
Downey Jr. did say that, again, he's kind of coy about it, saying, I'd be willing to come back. Maybe that's what he was talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, and of course, I know in the comics he does create like a hologram AI version of himself, kind of like a Jor-El style version of himself as well.
Well, I mean, I know there's that Ironheart stuff going on. Of course, we all theorize like Shuri might become like the Ironheart. That's kind of the teenage girl Iron Man. That's kind of So anyway, okay. So getting back to like speaking of which, the next generation of Iron Man, or basically at the very least the whole "I Love You 3000" thing. So then we have again we go even further back. So we have Nick Fury, but then we go even beyond that, where we have Jon Favreau, of course, as Happy Hogan, but Jon Favreau, the man who started everything, the man who started essentially is the man who got it right and kind of allowed the MCU to be formed, be forged from iron, if you will. and
goddamn Dragon one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Be forged from iron, and we have this moment where he's sitting with little Morgan, and
yes, I'm sorry, that's what I was going to get into. Go on.
Sitting with Morgan, and when this happened, it was like I was moved practically to tears. Again, obviously, what got me to tears.
I was tears in this moment. I already had tears in my eyes from the big monologue about like a world bigger than ourselves thing, but then this kind of just brought the waterworks like even more.
Where it says, like, are you hungry? Are you hungry? What do you want? It says cheeseburgers, and when she said cheeseburgers, I was looking at it like, oh god, I know what this.
Like, yes, cheeseburgers.
He says it all cutesy and I love the acting that Jon Favreau does here. Again, it's like this one moment in the whole movie where he's really in it and he's really acting, but it's a beautiful moment. It's just you just love the tender. It's like your dad. It's such a human moment. Where it's just your dad like cheeseburgers too. I'm gonna get you all the cheeseburgers you want. Okay.
I really hope that in Far From Home we continue up with Happy being kind of like a surrogate father to this kid.
I just want to see Peter Parker meet Morgan. That's what I want to see. That's all I want.
Peter Parker meet Shuri. I'm still shipping those two, Dragon. I'm hardcore shipping those two.
Really? I didn't know you were shipping those two.
I've brought it up several times before.
We kept bringing up that you want Tony Stark to meet Shuri. I don't know if you meant the whole
no, Tony Stark Shuri. Yes, I do want that to happen. Yes,
but now it's a little late for that. But
but now I just want to see the the geeks, the nerds get together. Dragon, I want the nerd love.
Well, if things don't work out with MJ, who knows? Anyway,
my theory on MJ is that it's going to be like, well, this is more kind of headcanon, but it's going to be like, dude, you realize that I'm like 5 years older than you now, right?
Oh God. Wow, yeah, again, that's going to be really. We're almost done. So, okay, I love that we have the payoff, and this is a really good kind of grand scheme payoff here. We have Wanda and Clint again, who these characters have been linked together ever since Ultron. Again, they both are kind of bounded by their losses. They've suffered. So again, it kind of gives a logic to why these two characters were kind of cosmically paired together for all these movies. Again, they're all kind of ending up at the same place together. It's nice.
I'm sorry, Dragon. We have to backtrack just a little bit because there's one important thing from the battle that we skipped over.
Okay.
The Women of Marvel.
We went over that, Tiki. Okay, what specifically do you want to talk about with the Women of Marvel? Hello? All right, anyway, okay. The point is we covered the Women of Marvel, folks. It's a really great money shot, obviously. It's really cool stuff. Oh yes, Donovan calling back. You step out that door, you're an Avenger now. Yes, the Clint and Wanda dynamic. Okay, and of course, there's also kind of some building stuff here that Iron Man. Basically a little bit of setup for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 here, where Thor seemingly is joining the Guardians. He leaves it in Valkyrie's hands, and she's going to be kind of the queen of New Asgard, kind of leading the Asgardian people, whose population has grown quite significantly. They need a leader, and it's not going to be Thor. Thor's going to find himself. He's not going to be what people expect him to be, which is nice. And that kind of leaves Thor with the Guardians, which again is like many a time the Guardians have kind of had like an ancillary extra member. Sometimes in Avengers, like Iron Man was it recently, and now I guess they put Thor in the position there, which makes sense. So that's again given like all the Ragnarok stuff, and Thor is kind of is somewhat directionless now in regards to an arc. He's kind of finding some new directions with the Guardians, presumably. Anyway, so that brings us to we have just those. Definitely going to have Peter Quill and probably going to have Peter Quill and Thor locking heads a little bit there. Thor's doing his really passive aggressive thing. Like, of course, I'm here. You're in charge of the ship here. We all know who's really in charge. So we're gonna see how that goes. That makes me a little worried for Guardians 3, but yeah, look, I got faith in James Gunn. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll see. Anyway, so then we get oh god, the big meat and potatoes. We get the passing of the shield. Oh my goodness. Oh god. So basically, we kind of have Captain America's Doc Brown moment, if you will. Kind of like he disappears in the lightning, and eventually we'll find his way back for a beautiful kind of resolution here. Where we have this beautiful ending. It's kind of like essentially this kind of leads to Up. It's kind of like Up meets Captain America. That's kind of what I describe this ending as. I think in the most beautiful way here, where of course Cappy goes back in time to set the stones right. Otherwise, the world's doomed. So he's gonna set the stones back, fix the timeline. Of course, they could have gone two ways with this, man. They could have Cap just couldn't have come. He might just not have come back, and that might just kind of been left to the imagination. We might not have had like kind of the passing of the shield moment here, but no. Cap's supposed to come back in 5 seconds, and he doesn't. But then they look over yonder, and we see a man kind of sitting in the distance, and again dressed like skinny Steve Rogers. Bucky said goodbye to Steve, and Bucky definitely he knew something. Bucky he gave a kind of a final goodbye to his friend there, and the idea is like Steve Rogers told Bucky what he was doing. I've looked at it a couple ways. I'm absolutely certain that Bucky knew. And because of course Steve Rogers trusts Bucky more than anyone on the planet, so he told Bucky, and anyway, so he walks, so he tells Sam to go over, and I just love this, especially on a rewatch. Like, oh my god, Bucky knows, and he told Sam to go over, and we reveal old Captain America. It's from the comics where Steve Rogers, basically it's kind of a better version of like how do we get Captain America old? Well, we kind of drop him back in time and we just allow him to grow old and kind of live a life. And I think that's a perfect ending for Captain America. There's some speculation if they're going to do that or not. And again, like the whole like, is Cap going to die during that standoff with Thanos, or is he going to like, stay back in time a lot earlier in the movie? But no, it's like he did it just now, and we reveal a very Clint Eastwood looking Captain America. By the way, it looks very much like Clint Eastwood. So anyway, so of course, Captain America, what happens here when we kind of pass on the shield, it happens one of two ways. Usually, if he dies, it goes to Bucky. If if he's in the position of choosing, he chooses Sam Wilson. And that's kind of what we did here. He chose Sam Wilson. The idea is like he lived a life and he chose Sam Wilson. He chose the right man for the job. Two excellent choices, but again, he chose Sam. He trusts Bucky, but he chose Sam. Gives him a new shield, and Sam's deeply honored. And he says, it feels like it's not mine. You can tell it's a new shield, by the way, because the idea, like, don't get wrapped up in the semantics of the shield. The point is, he either had a new one made in Wakanda or something, or just he fixed the shield that he had. It doesn't matter, folks. It doesn't matter. Point is, it gives him a new shield that looks a lot like Falcon's new shield. Might not even be made of vibranium if you want to really be all semantical. That doesn't matter. He says it feels like it's someone else's. It isn't. Basically, it feels it isn't someone else's. It's his. I'll do my best. That's why it's yours. Like, oh my goodness! Just again, the low aging technology in Marvel. Again, we've de-aged and we've aged up, and oh my gosh, it looks so seamless and so beautiful. Just 95-plus-year-old Cap. Just guys, seeing him like that. And again, we did old Steve Rogers, and we did it right. And again, we added that extra just kind of dimension to like why he's not just old for the sake. We need to get Cap out of the fray here. We attach something meaningful to it. So then we have, oh god, we have this. The real ending of the whole piece is we reveal a wedding ring on Cap's finger, and you're gonna tell me about her? No, I don't think I will. With a smile, as Chris Evans playing old Captain America so well, and his playing old Steve Rogers so well. And then we play. It's been a long, long time from Captain America Winter Soldier, which he played when Nick Fury was in his apartment. And now the headcanon I now have because of this movie is that, oh my God, one, I love that scene in Winter Soldier. I love that music choice, and I thought it was perfect. And now it's even better because it's like that's the song. Cap probably listened to the song on the record player because that's the song he wanted to dance to Peggy Carter with. And we reveal that again, very up like in a house. And again, he's taken to the domestic life that again he thought